Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabashwali Saziva Yasili Amrivahu Lisani Yakaruko. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task and remove the impediments from my speech so that they may understand what I say. First of all, a very warm welcome to all the dignitaries, the panelists, and all our participants for taking time out on a working day. We do appreciate. Today's topic is very different, and it's not your traditional post-budget session per se, where you just talk about the budget proposals and certain amendments that you have made. Certainly, we would be discussing a bit about that. But as you'll see in our expert panel discussion today, the impetus really is on the impact on Pakistan's economy and the potential and opportunities as well as the possible challenges for us all as a nation. In this regard, and for our topic today, Budget 2019-2020, opportunities and challenges for economic reforms, I would like to invite someone who doesn't really need an introduction, Head of ACCA Pakistan, Mr. Sajid Aslam, to come on stage and deliver the welcome address to you all. So I would request you all to open your hearts and give a very strong round of applause.
Thank you, Umar. Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. I think budget पे बहुत बहस हो चुकी हुई है और बजट पे ये बहस अभी खत्म नहीं होगी. इवन इनेक्टमेंट के बाद फाइनेंस एक्ट पे कन्वर्सेशन शुरू हो गया. एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट एरिया है जो एज अ अकाउंटेंट, एज अ पाकिस्तानी सिटीजन, एज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ इकोनॉमी एंड फाइनेंस हम लोगों के लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है. व्हाट टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, and I'm talking about the quality of questions we are bringing to table. Questioning is not something which as a society we really have that as a spread. Most of the time answers ढूंढते रह जाते rather than building those questions. इस forum पे हमारी कोशिश ये होगी आज कि at least with everybody's contribution we can build those questions which can be answered, which can we take back to the government as well or other policy policies, think tanks, and the people who can do the interventions. We can bring those questions to them. ACC की एक बड़ी strong positioning है. ACC की एक strong positioning है कि budget is a subset of economy. So unless until you figure out your economic interventions, it's very difficult to really substantiate the importance or the implication of the current budget. That's why the debate which we are trying to open is more around the economy. So we will discuss budget, that what's the budget, how the budget look like, but most importantly the conversation should be more in the context of the economic growth. It should be in the context of the opportunity which exists with the current crisis. What we are doing about the fiscal deficits and how the world look at us, how they really rate us. As an economy, is it worth investing? हमारा जो local businessman है वो किस तरह देखते हैं? Just to give you the context, just to remind ourselves a context, ACCA की history हमेशा status quo को challenge करने के हवाले से 1904 से लेके आज तक we always challenge the status quo and we demand and we contribute towards that innovation which is required for a society or economy to sustain and grow. With our presence in over 180 countries, with 219 members and over 500,000 students, I think we are very, very strong voice. At the same time, we can and we should and we must influence the policies which matter to the societies or the economies where we operate. और हमारी ये voice जो है, this is all around the members. It's the member voice. We are just a forum which reflect on it. So the more members who are engaged, the more members who are sharing their views, that help us to bring those views to light, bring those views to the people who intervene in a policy making. So आज की discussion के लिए, I'll not take too much time here, but आज की discussion के लिए, I'll encourage everybody contribute, help us to build those questions together, which help us to think ahead and see what economic implication or economic drive as accountants, as ACCA, as Pakistani, we would like to see or we would like to help shaping that future. So welcome all of you and thank you for taking out time. I know most of the people are very, very busy. It's June and there's a lot of discussions and a lot of closing happening, but your contribution is something which is most important. So thank you very much for taking out time and welcome to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sajid, for that very succinct to the point yet very thought-provoking address. And I'm sure that all our members in line with ACCA's aim are always thinking ahead. So with that, ACCA started thinking ahead since its inception. How many of you are aware that ACCA was the first accounting body to admit female members? Okay, not even the female members are aware. Okay, so that's a surprise for you. And I hope this is not the surprise that ACCA's CEO is a female. You are aware of that, right? Great. So, okay, why are you all so dull? Haven't you had your lunch? Okay, give me some spark. Good. So the reason I'm talking about this is because the next member that we are about to invite will be focusing and representing on this great ethos of ACCA, which we refer to as the Women in Finance. You might be aware that ACCA has a member representative body in Pakistan, commonly known as MNP, Members Network Panel. Honored to be chairing it myself. And for the first time, MNP has created 9 subcommittees and societies to champion the various causes that are closer to ACCA's global agenda and footprint. And perhaps one of the most important of them all is Women in Finance Committee. So without taking any more of your time, I would like to invite our member in Islamabad, who sits on the Women in Finance Committee, to come on the stage and apprise us all about with her thoughts and about the feedback of Women in Finance Committee in the context of this budget. So could I invite you, Amara, on stage? Amara Latif, please give her a big hand. Thank you, Amara.
I am thankful to ACCA for providing me this opportunity to represent Islamabad chapter of Women in Finance Society. We are a team of 7 ACCA members, and we have work experience from really diverse backgrounds. We come from academia, we come from corporate sector, we come from business advisory and counseling, and we also have some successful entrepreneurs on board. As mentors, our work is primarily focused on encouraging and promoting women to excel in challenging business roles. We aim at increasing gender diversity of this profession and develop means for providing equal opportunities to women. Since we are discussing economic reforms today, I would like to mention something of very keen interest to all of you. Government has proposed a tax credit of up to 5% of taxable income of the employers that hire fresh graduates. Now, this is a very positive step to enhance the employment as well as provide tax relief for the business entities. Interestingly, the quota for such graduates is said to be up to 15% of the total employment of a certain company, which in my opinion is clearly a good number to engage our youth in the economic productivity cycle. Now, this will also translate into a greater economic benefit if we link this proposed policy with the ACCA concept paper on shared services. Hiring fresh graduates for a shared services unit means having access to a larger talent pool at a lower cost. Not only this model reduces the operational cost, but also provides added benefits in the form of tax relief. This, in my opinion, lays foundation of a very successful business model which can thrive on young talent and passion, and such models are what makes China a successful and leading economy. Now, we should all try to put our collective efforts to pull our country out of the current economic instability. And let's put these more efficient and more effective growth models in work. With this, I will thank for your time and thank you so much.
Okay, so we are moving towards the thick of things. कितने लोगों ने बजट पढ़ा है? Show of hands. Honestly. Okay. So the good news is a few have, not as many as we would like to, but doesn't matter. That's why ACCA is here. Because you'll be getting an executive summary. So next up, I have the honor in my capacity as the chair of the taxation committee to go through the budget proposals. The way we are going to do that is a bit different. हम शुरू करेंगे एक ब्रीफ ओवरव्यू के साथ कि ACCA ने बजट प्रपोजल्स के हवाले से क्या किया, राइट? उसके बाद हम क्विकली बात करेंगे 10 ऐसे बजट प्रपोजल्स पर जो ACCA ने अपनी पार्टनर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ पुट फॉरवर्ड किए एंड उनमें कौन से प्रपोजल गवर्नमेंट ने इंप्लीमेंट किए, कौन से पार्शियल इंप्लीमेंट किए और कहाँ पे बेटे की गुंजाइश है. And then we'll finish off the presentation by a few important areas जो इस बजट में प्रपोज किए गए हैं. Obviously उसमें हम ग्रेड चेंजेस एक कॉन्टिन्यूटी जो है उसको तो हाईलाइट नहीं करेंगे, वो आप सारे पढ़ सकते हैं. लेकिन जो ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट चेंजेस है either because वो structural changes हैं, newer concept हैं, या उनकी implications आपके हमारे लिए businesses के लिए implemented है. उस पर ज्यादा डेवलप एक दो पॉइंट्स के अलावा हम नहीं करेंगे. वो हमारे पास एक्सपर्ट्स का पैनल है. इसके बाद एक्सपर्ट पैनल की डिस्कशन होगी जो आप लोगों के लिए बहुत ज्यादा बेनिफिशियल साबित होगी. सो विद दैट लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द प्रेजेंटेशन. So, first of all, I hope हमारे members को ये पता हो. अगर नहीं पता, and more so for the benefit of our dignitaries, ACCA is the global body of accountants. In fact, the members take pride in saying it's the only and largest ever global body of accountants, जिसके 2,19,000 members, 527,000 students, 179 countries में presence, 110 offices का network, 7,571 approved employers, or more than 10,000 practicing firms across the globe connected as global networks. So this should give you a fair idea कि आप कितनी strong और powerful global family का हिस्सा हैं. इससे आपको एक चीज और भी पता लगती है कि ACCA is really well placed because of its global footprint that it can share the global insights which benefit our Pakistan's local economy. ACCA के 12 tenets हैं fair taxation. आप में से कितने लोग उसको पढ़ चुके हैं? ओके, एक और वैसे फिलहाल हमारे टैक्सेशन सब कमेटी के मेंबर हैं, तो इनको तो मैं साइड पे कर दूंगा. ना पढ़ा होता तो मुझे इनसे पूछना होगा. I would recommend कि आप सब जब आपको टाइम मिले, it's not a very lengthy document, shouldn't take more than 10 minutes to quickly overview it. आप सारे उसको overview करें. उसके वो सारे core principle वो हैं जो किसी भी अच्छे टैक्स के निज़ाम के लिए लाजमी हैं. और हमारे आज पाकिस्तान के टैक्सेशन के निज़ाम की चैलेंजेस को वो एड्रेस कर रहे हैं. और अक्सर जो हमारे डिफरेंट एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, जैसे यहाँ पे सुलैनी साहब बैठे हुए हैं, भट्ट साहब बैठे हैं, दूसरे डिग्निटरीज हैं, वो उन्हीं कॉन्सेप्ट्स को रेफर करते रहते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल ओपननेस की बात है, ट्रांसपेरेंसी की बात है, फेयरनेस की बात है. सो एसीसी ने इस सबको इन दैट रिसर्च डॉक्यूमेंट आउटलेट किया। एसीसी ओईसीडी पे भी एक बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग वॉइस है और कॉन्स्टेंटली टेक्निकल रिकमेंडेशन की टॉपिक्स लाइक ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग, बेस इरोजन और प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग वगैरह के ऊपर डिलीवर करता है। और ये वो चैलेंजेस हैं जो अब पाकिस्तान को फेस करते हैं। वी आर कैचिंग अप विद द रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। सो इसमें भी एसीसी और आप एज एसीसी मेंबर्स बहुत इफेक्टिव रोल प्ले कर सकते हैं। ये बात तो मेरा ख्याल है कॉमन नॉलेज है, वी ऑल वुड एग्री कि हमारा जो टैक्सेशन सिस्टम है इट इज इन डायर नीड ऑफ अ सीरियस ओवरहॉल। स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस आर द नीड ऑफ द आवर। लोगों का कॉन्फिडेंस जब तक रीइंस्टेट नहीं होगा, जितनी मर्जी हम रिफॉर्म कर लें, देयर वुड ओनली बी अ लिमिटेड आउटकम। सो ये हमारी कंटिन्यूअसली ग्रोइंग ब्लैक इकोनॉमी, अंडर डिक्लेरेशन, टैक्स इवेजन, ये हमारे की चैलेंजेस हैं। एफएटीएफ का जो ऑनगोइंग चैलेंज है, इसी से रिलेट करते हैं। हम सबको पता है आजकल एसेट डिक्लेरेशन ऑर्डिनेंस, जिसको हम कॉमनली टैक्स एमनेस्टी कह रहे हैं, वो भी इसी को एड्रेस करने के लिए, इकोनॉमी को डॉक्यूमेंटेड करने के लिए प्रेजेंट की गई है। एसीसी पाकिस्तान ने इन तमाम और दूसरे मेजर इश्यूज पे अपने बजट प्रपोजल्स में डिटेल से प्रपोजल दिए और आप सब उस बजट प्रपोजल की डॉक्यूमेंट को एसीसी की वेबसाइट पे जाके देख भी सकते हैं। इनफैक्ट मैं आपसे ये शेयर करके आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर दैट विद आवर मेंबर्स इन पाकिस्तान एंड आई टेक ग्रेट प्राइड बीइंग चेयर ऑफ द टैक्सेशन कमेटी इन एमपी। हमारे एसीसी पाकिस्तान के जो लास्ट ईयर के बजट प्रपोजल थे वो एसीसी के ग्लोबल नेटवर्क में हाईली अप्रिशिएट किए गए और एसीसी की वेबसाइट पे इस वक्त एज अ बेंचमार्क फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ द 180 कंट्रीज दे आर प्रेजेंट। सो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू ऑल कि आप उसमें थोड़ा टाइम दीजिए, अपनी वेबसाइट पे जाइए, प्रपोजल डॉक्यूमेंट्स को देखिए, अगर उसमें आपको कोई गाइडेंस चाहिए फील फ्री टू कॉन्टैक्ट अस। कमिंग बैक टू द ऑनगोइंग ईयर, इस साल जो हमारे बजट प्रपोजल्स हैं उनपे हमने डिफरेंट जो की एरियाज को एड्रेस किया है। उसमें फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल जो इश्यूज इस मिसट्रस्ट की एनवायरनमेंट को क्रिएट और एक्सैचुरेट कर रहे हैं उनको हमने एड्रेस किया है कि उनको कैसे रिफॉर्म किया जा सकता है। लेटेस्ट गेम चेंजिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज, चाहे मशीन लर्निंग, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ब्लॉकचेन, इन सारों के ऊपर हमने बात की है कि कैसे वो हमारी इकोनॉमी को इम्पैक्ट करते नजर आ रहे हैं, कैसे करेंगे और हम उस बारे में क्या कर सकते हैं। सिमिलरली हमारी इकोनॉमी और टैक्सेशन पॉलिसी का जो आपस में ताल्लुक है और किस तरह हमें अपनी टैक्सेशन पॉलिसी में वेरियस स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस लाने होंगे ताकि हमारी जो इकोनॉमिक आउटपुट और ग्रोथ है उसके ऊपर एक पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट आ सके, इसको भी हमने डिस्कस किया है। सिमिलरली सीपैट, which we believe is a core project for Pakistan. We have been turning it as a game changer, and it has proved to be a game changer to a lot to a big extent. हमारी जो infrastructure development हुई है, just the other day I was going through major development कि चाइना के साथ अब इस बात के ऊपर negotiate हो रहा है कि जो हमारे special economic zones हैं वहाँ पे लिमिटेशन हो चाइनीज इंडस्ट्री की। इससे आज है हमारे पास हसन दाऊद साहब हैं, वो इज द मेन गाय फॉर सीपेक, तो डिटेल से हमारी डिस्कशन हो रही है, इसलिए आई वोंट ड्वेल ऑन दिस टू मच। सिमिलरली बीइंग द लार्जेस्ट अकाउंटेंसी बॉडी इन पाकिस्तान, हमने अपने मेंबर्स से भी, लोकल पाकिस्तान बेस्ड मेंबर बेस से भी inputs लिए इस budgetary proposal में, and they have been incorporated within these proposals. So ये proposals सिर्फ ऐसे नहीं है कि डेस्क पे बैठ के या ब्यूरोक्रेसी के थ्रू या अच्छे रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स के थ्रू बने हैं, बल्कि इसके अंदर प्रैक्टिकल इनपुट्स और इनसाइट शामिल हैं आप लोगों की जो डेली बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, चैलेंजेस को डील कर रहे हैं। Last but not the least, I would like to thank ACC, the official team, for their support, my subcommittee members, and the entire MNP team for their support, as well as our wider global member base, जिन्होंने इसमें contribute और participate किया है। With that, हमारे 10 common budget proposal, ACC इस चीज में बड़ा believe करता है कि collaboration is always better. We don't believe in that traditional sense of competition. We always believe in collaborating. जब आप अच्छी बात के ऊपर एक आवाज में बात करते हैं तो वो आवाज कई गुना ज्यादा ताकतवर हो जाती है। और मुख्तलिफ एरिया से जब वो आवाज आती है तो उसके नतीजे में आप ज्यादा इफेक्टिव रिजल्ट्स जनरेट कर पाते हैं। आपके इल्म में है, इसी से माजी में भी बजट इवेंट्स, पोस्ट बजट इवेंट्स, फाइनेंस एक्ट इवेंट्स, वैसे ट्रेनिंग सेशन डिफरेंट इदारों के साथ कोलैबोरेशन में करता रहा है। इस साल जो हमारे बजट प्रपोजल्स थे उसमें we went through a process where we had the liaisons and interactions with Institute of Chartered and Management Accountants Pakistan, Lahore Tax Bar Association, Karachi Tax Bar Association, and we agreed on some key areas जिनको हम सब ने jointly गवर्नमेंट को सेंड किया और उसका रिजल्ट वही है जो हमने एक्सपेक्ट किया कि about 65 to 70% of those proposals have been incorporated in the budget proposal. So congratulations to you, या आप लोगों की achievement. So सबसे पहले उसमें जो proposal जिसको हम हमेशा advocate और champion करते हैं, that is reduction in tax rates to single digits. I hope you are aware that Pakistan has one of the most complex taxation systems, not in the world, in the region we are sitting in. क्योंकि एट टाइम्स हम बात करते हैं तो कहा जाता है कि डेवलप्ड मुल्कों से कंपैरिजन सही नहीं, ठीक है, जस्टिफाइड है, लेकिन जिस रीजन में हम बैठे हैं, इंडिया, बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, इन कंट्रीज के साथ तो हम कंपेयर कर सकते हैं। कंपेयर टू आवर ओन रीजन, आवर टैक्सेशन सिस्टम इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट कॉम्प्लेक्स, एंड गेस व्हाट, आवर टैक्सेशन रेट्स आर वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट इन द रीजन। सो हम बहुत स्ट्रांगली ये बिलीव करते हैं और ये ज्वाइंट प्रपोजल था कि जो हमारे टैक्सेशन रेट्स हैं इनको कम होना चाहिए, वॉल्यूम ओवर मार्जिन की पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए, टैक्स बेस्ड फ्रॉड होनी चाहिए, आप रेट्स कम करें, टैक्सेशन की कॉस्ट कम करें ताकि लोग कंप्लायंस की तरफ आए। इसी तरह फॉर्मलाइज्ड एसेट वैल्यूएशन एज पर मार्केट वैल्यूज, पाकिस्तान हैज अ यूनिक स्ट्रक्चर इन दैट हमारे यहाँ 3 मार्केट वैल्यूएशन होती है। एक पीसी वैल्यू है जिसके ऊपर आप प्रोविंशियल टैक्सेस ड्यूटी पे कर रहे होते हैं, रजिस्ट्रेशन कराने में प्रॉपर्टी की, एक एफपीआर वैल्यू है जिसके ऊपर आपका एडवांस इनकम टैक्स कट रहा होता है, आपका कैपिटल गेन टैक्स हो रहा होता है, एंड देन देयर इज द एक्चुअल मार्केट। सो अनफॉर्चुनेटली इस डिफरेंस की वजह से लेजिटिमेटली जो लूपहोल है उनकी नतीजे में ब्लैक इकोनॉमी परवान चढ़ती है और ब्लैक मनी क्रिएट होती है। बहुत क्विकली एग्जांपल देता हूं, फॉर एग्जांपल आपने 4 करोड़ का एक प्लॉट लिया, ठीक है, उसकी लेट से डीसी वैल्यू थी 1.5 करोड़, एफपीआर वैल्यू थी 2.25 करोड़, आपने एफपीआर वैल्यू पे डिक्लेयर किया एब्सोल्युटली लीगल, लेकिन 2.25 करोड़ पे दर गया किसी हिसाब में, किसी रिकॉर्ड में, एंड दैट इज लेजिटिमेट। सो इस तरह के लॉस को हमें रैशनलाइज करने की जरूरत है। ये हमारे मुल्क, हमारी हुकूमत, हमारे बिजनेसेस के हाथ में है और इसी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हमने ये प्रपोजल ज्वाइंटली दिया था कि ब्लैक इकोनॉमी को कर्ब करने के लिए और सिस्टम को स्ट्रीमलाइन एंड डॉक्यूमेंट करने के लिए वी शुड वर्क ऑन फॉर्मलाइजिंग एसेट वैल्यूज एज पर मार्केट वैल्यूज। और इस प्रपोजल को ऑलरेडी वी आर प्लीज्ड टू से दिस हैज बीन अंडरटेकन इन द बजट 2020। आप सुन चुके हैं, नए टेबल्स आ रहे हैं जिसमें अप टू 85% ऑफ एफपीआर वैल्यू रिवाइज की जा रही है और ये हमने प्रपोज किया कि इसको आप सेगमेंटेड स्टेज में करें, एकदम 100% ना करें, उसकी इम्प्लीकेशंस होती हैं। इसी तरह एटीएल बीच में एक पीरियड आया था जहां पे अपडेट होना रुक गई थी। वी बिलीव कि जब हमने टैक्स रेट्स फ्रॉड करनी है तो लोगों को फैसिलिटेट करें और उसके लिए इट इज नेसेसरी टू अपडेट एटीएल ऑन वीकली बेसिस। ठीक है, जो लेट कमर आप उसको पेनल्टी या फाइन चार्ज कर लें, लेकिन उसको सिस्टम से ना निकालें। We are glad to share this has already been undertaken to a proposal which is very important, yet waiting for the action, but something which we understand is being worked upon is a single tax return. इस वक्त क्या हो रहा है कि एक नेशनल बिजनेस या इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस जो है प्रोविंशियल अथॉरिटीज को अपनी अलग रिटर्न दे रहे हैं, एफपीआर को अपनी अलग रिटर्न दे रहे हैं, फिर साल के एंड में वो अपनी अलग इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न दे रहे हैं। We are living in this age of technology. These are all government departments. How difficult it is to integrate the databases. Just submit one tax return and have all the data pulled out from there. So this is a proposal we have been advocating. अभी budget के अंदर नहीं इस पे हुआ, but we do understand in our interactions with the Minister of State for Revenue, the Chairman of FPR and other dignitaries that this is being seriously worked upon. इसी तरह हार्मोनाइजेशन ऑफ टैक्सेशन लॉज इन द कंट्री, पूरी दुनिया में इकोनॉमिकली, नॉट फिजिकली, इकोनॉमिकली बॉर्डर्स रेलिवेंट हो रही है, यूरोपियन इकोनॉमिक एरिया एक बन रहा है, ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट हो रहे हैं, पूरे यूरोप में आपका एक वैट इंसिडेंस है, हमारा एक थोड़ा डिफरेंट सिस्टम है। पोस्ट 18 अमेंडमेंट एक अच्छी इंटेंशन के साथ सूबों को राइट दिए गए सेल्स टैक्स ऑन सर्विसेज के, बट बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ हार्मोनाइजेशन ऑफ टैक्स लॉज it has resulted in serious implications for the businesses. For example, आप एक नेशनल बिजनेस है, आप लाहौर में ऑफिस है, कराची में सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, अब आपने टैक्स किसको देना है? पीआर क्लेम करते हैं आपने लाहौर से ओरिजिनेट किया मेरा राइट है, एसआरबी क्लेम करते हैं सर्विस आप कराची में दे रहे हैं, यहाँ पे करें। But that's not all. ये जो प्रोविंशियल अथॉरिटीज हैं इनके और एफपीआर के दरमियान जो हमारी फेडरल टैक्सेशन बॉडी है, फेडरल बोर्ड ऑफ रेवेन्यू, भी डिफरेंसेस हैं। तो वी हैव एडवोकेटेड स्ट्रांगली कि हार्मोनाइजेशन ऑफ टैक्सेशन लॉज एक की एरिया है जिसके ऊपर हमें काम करने की जरूरत है। नेक्स्ट अप, रैशनलाइजेशन ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग टैक्स लॉज। फॉर एग्जांपल, एक मैं आपको प्राइम मिसाल देता हूं कि हमारा एक सेक्शन है 1114 इनकम टैक्स ऑर्डिनेंस का, जो ये अलाउ करता है कि आप पाकिस्तान में बैंकिंग चैनल के थ्रू अगर फॉरेन करेंसी भेजें और उसका एनकैशमेंट सर्टिफिकेट ले लें, पहले तो कोई लिमिट नहीं थी, नो क्वेश्चन आस्क्ड नो पे, अभी भी टैक्स के लिए लिमिट नहीं है, बट क्वेश्चन वर आस्क्ड, लिमिट जो है वो अभी रिवाइज हो रही है दोबारा इस बजट प्रपोजल में। अच्छा, एक तरफ तो ये कानून है, दूसरी तरफ हमारे पास जो मैकेनिज्म है उसको लेजिटिमेट प्रोवाइड बनाने का, दैट इज मल्टी। फॉर एग्जांपल, उस ट्रांजैक्शन पे तो क्वेश्चन कोई नहीं, लेकिन आगे जो आप डिफरेंट ट्रांजैक्शंस करते हैं एज अ रिजल्ट, अनलेस यू कीप द एंटायर पेपर ट्रेल, दैट कैन गो इन द स्पेकुलेशन। सिमिलरली हमारे जो ओवरसीज पाकिस्तानी हैं, अगर उनकी पाकिस्तान में कोई प्रॉपर्टी नहीं है ऐसा, तो उनको फाइलर बनने की जरूरत नहीं है, उनको एटीएम रखने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट फाइलर नॉन फाइलर के डिफरेंस की वजह से उनको फाइलर यहाँ पे बनना पड़ता था। सो मतलब इस तरह के हमारे लॉस थे जो रैशनलाइज करने की जरूरत थी। अच्छी चीज ये है कि उसमें पार्शियली काम शुरू हो चुका है, आपको पता है फाइलर नॉन फाइलर का कॉन्सेप्ट खत्म करके उसकी जगह डिफरेंस स्टेप्स किए गए। So this is also something we are proud to have participated in. Next up, two proposals which are both being at least partially considered at the moment are: number one, adherence to the time limits, and number two, automation of the taxation system. अभी हमारे टैक्स लॉज में अक्सर जगह टाइम लिमिट्स मौजूद है, लेकिन बिकॉज ऑफ द लैक ऑफ पीनल क्लॉज उनकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन। फॉर एग्जांपल, आप में से कितने लोगों ने कभी खुद या किसी के लिए रिफंड अप्लाई करने की कोशिश की? किसी ने तो की होगी, एक बस एक ही बंदे ने रिफंड लेना है। ओके, वेरी जनरस ऑफ यू ऑल। सो कभी आप ट्राई करें या आप पूछें तो आपको आइडिया होगा कि अनफॉर्चुनेटली टाइम लिमिट मीट होने का सवाल नहीं होगा। तो वहां पे हमने एडवाइस की है कि जी इनको इन्फोर्स होना चाहिए। गुड थिंग इज दैट कि उसके लिए रिफंड कंपनी सेपरेटली बना के राइट डायरेक्शन में स्टेप लिए गए हैं। सिमिलरली ऑटोमेशन ऑफ टैक्सेशन सिस्टम पे भी काम हो रहा है। Next up, changes in discretionary power of FPR, particularly bank account attachment की इसकी very quickly actual जो रूल है वो ये कहता है कि ये discretionary power आप सिर्फ extreme situation में exercise करें। Extreme situation क्या है कि me as a commissioner either I have certain information or for some reason I am certain कि जो taxpayer implicated है वो पैसा लेके भाग जाएगा, सिर्फ वहां पे मुझे अलाउ है कि मैं बैंक अकाउंट अटैच कर सकूं। Practically, almost in every case, this was happening. इसके बाद में एक अच्छा स्टेप ले गया चेयरमैन एफपीआर शहबाज अली साहब ने कहा कि उसको हम रोकेंगे, बट दिस इज समथिंग जिसके बारे में एक फॉर्मल मैकेनिज्म लॉ के अंदर आना चाहिए। सिमिलरली, लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, वी बिलीव कि एफपीआर की जो एक्सपर्टीज हैं और जिस तरह अभी टैक्स बेस बनाने की बातें हो रही हैं, नाजा कहते हैं 5 मिलियन डाटा है, सिमिलरली एफपीआर कहता है, बाकी लोग कह रहे हैं, और जो हमारे प्रोफेशनल्स मौजूद हैं ऑन ग्राउंड उनकी तादाद सिमिलरली क्लोज टू 1 लाख कंपनीज हो रही हैं, तो उनको प्रोफेशनल एडवाइस कहीं से तो वो एडवाइस लेंगे ना, कहीं से तो कंसल्टेशन लेंगे। अगर प्रोफेशनल्स उन्हें गाइड कर रहे होंगे तो प्रॉपर अंदाज में उन्हें कंप्लायंस का फायदा बता रहे होंगे। सिमिलरली एफपीआर का जो अपना ऑडिट है वो कौन लोग कर रहे हैं? एक बहुत काबिल अफसर होंगे, बी कॉमर है, वो आ रहे हैं, उनको आप प्रोसेस से गुजार रहे हैं, काफी उनके साथ आप ज्यादती कर रहे हैं, उनसे ये डिमांड करके कि इफेक्टिव ऑडिट आप कर सकते हैं। इसी तरह ट्रिब्यूनल में जो अकाउंटेंट मेंबर है वहां पे एफपीआर के अपने ऑफिशियल को एज अकाउंटेंट मेंबर बिठा के वो केस जिसमें एफपीआर खुद मेंबर है डिसाइड किया जा रहा है। सो हम समझते हैं इन तमाम एरियाज में जो प्रोफेशनल अकाउंटेंट्स हैं, तमाम प्रोफेशनल अकाउंटिंग बॉडीज हैं पाकिस्तान, उनको रिप्रेजेंटेशन मिलनी चाहिए। उसका नतीजा ये होगा, एक तो कॉम्पिटेंस, जो प्रोफेशनल अकाउंटेंट आएगा प्रॉपर कॉम्पिटेंस के साथ डिलीवर करेगा, जिसके नतीजे में डिलीवरी ऑफ सर्विस इंप्रूव होगी, स्टैंडर्ड्स इंप्रूव होंगे। Okay, with that, I'll now very quickly go through some of the key changes in the budget proposal. Can I have the handheld mic? I just want handheld mic. Okay, वैसे तो इस बजट में काफी चेंजेस किए हैं, लेकिन some of the core changes are number one about property taxation. आपके नॉलेज में होगा कि कैपिटल गेन टैक्स की रिजीम को रैशनलाइज किया जा रहा है, तो ओपन प्लॉट्स और कंस्ट्रक्टेड प्रॉपर्टी के लिए अलग-अलग रूल्स दिए गए हैं, टाइम लिमिट को 10 साल तक एक्सटेंड किया गया है। सिमिलरली परचेज रिक्वायर की गई है कि 5 मिलियन से ज्यादा की प्रॉपर्टी अगर आप परचेज कर रहे हैं, सिर्फ प्रॉपर्टी नहीं कोई भी एसेट परचेज कर रहे हैं, तो आप उसको बैंकिंग चैनल के थ्रू करेंगे। अगर नहीं करेंगे तो एडिशनल 5% टैक्स आपसे लिया जाएगा और प्लस वो टैक्स पर्पसेस के लिए अलाउेबल ट्रांजैक्शन नहीं होगी, यानी उस पर डेप्रिसिएशन, इनिशियल अलाउंस, सीजीबी की बेस को आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा। फाइलर नॉन फाइलर का कॉन्सेप्ट खत्म करके इंस्टेड जो लोग एटीएल में नहीं होंगे यानी फाइलर नहीं होंगे, उनसे 100% इजाफी विदहोल्डिंग टैक्स तकरीबन तमाम एरियाज में दिए जाएंगे और उसके साथ एफपीआर ऑफिसर्स को रिक्वायर किया जाएगा कि सर्टेन ट्रांजैक्शंस की उनकी प्रोविजनल असेसमेंट करें। मिसाल के तौर पे प्रॉपर्टी ली है, उनके पास विदहोल्डिंग का डाटा है, तो अब कमिश्नर प्रोविजनल असेसमेंट करेगा। आपने 4 करोड़ में प्लॉट लिया, एनटीएम तो है नहीं, तो 4 करोड़ अगर आपने सेव किया तो इसका मतलब है कि होपफुली 40 करोड़ की तो आपने इनकम पिछले 2-4-5 साल में कमाई है, तो 4 करोड़ का आप प्लॉट ले लें, इतना आपका टैक्स बना क्योंकि नहीं आपने फाइल किया, ये पेनल्टी है, जिसका होपफुली शायद ये एक फायदा होगा कि लोग इंसेंटिवाइज होंगे टैक्स नेट में आने के लिए। थर्ड पॉइंट मैं ऑलरेडी बता चुका हूँ। इसी तरह से जो फाइनल टैक्स रिजीम है उसको मिनिमम टैक्स रिजीम से रिप्लेस किया जा रहा है, इस पर हम ज्यादा बात करेंगे क्वेश्चन आंसर सेक्शन में। इंटर कॉर्पोरेट डिविडेंड्स के हवाले से एक पॉजिटिव चेंज आया है कि सरेंडर ऑफ लॉस जो लास्ट बजट प्रपोजल में रिक्वायर किया गया था कि मैंडेटरी होगा, इट हैज बीन प्रपोज्ड टू डू अवे विद दैट। मिनिमम टैक्स ऑन सर्विसेज सेक्टर पे क्लॉज 94 के जरिए सर्टेन सेक्टर्स को एक रिलीफ दिया गया था कि 8% की बजाय वो 2% टैक्स जमा करा सकते हैं और उसके बदले उन्हें ऑडिट कराना होगा। प्रपोज किया गया कि उस क्लॉज 94 को खत्म करके ये ऑडिट की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं होगी, सब खत्म हो जाएगा, रेट को ब्लैंकेट रिड्यूस करके 4% पे कर दिया। रेजिडेंट इंडिविजुअल की डेफिनेशन चेंज की गई है। पहले साल में 183 डेज पाकिस्तान में रहने वाले को रेजिडेंट इंडिविजुअल टैक्स लॉस के लिए कंसीडर किया जाता था। अब प्रपोज किया गया है जो पुराना कॉन्सेप्ट था उसको रीइंस्टेट कर दिया जाए, या किसी भी टैक्स ईयर में 90 डेज स्टे along with a total stay of 365 in last 4 years will make any person who might not be otherwise residing in Pakistan a resident for tax purposes. पेनल्टी और प्रोसिक्यूशन क्लॉजेस इंसर्ट की गई है अनडिक्लेयर्ड ऑफशोर एसेट्स के लिए। आपके नॉलेज में इकोनॉमी एक्ट क्लीन एक्ट हुआ है, ये हमारी एसेट डिक्लेरेशन ऑर्डिनेंस भी आया है, इन्हीं चीजों की कॉन्टिन्यूटी में बजट में ये प्रपोज किया गया है कि टैक्स लॉस को भी अकॉर्डिंगली अमेंड किया जाए। सिमिलरली इनकम टैक्स रिफंड्स की सेटलमेंट के लिए जो सेल्स टैक्स का प्रोजेक्ट हुआ है उसकी एक्सटेंशन प्रपोज की गई है कि इनकम टैक्स के रिफंड्स भी प्रोमिसरी नोट्स के जरिए किए जाएं। टैक्स क्रेडिट ये ऑलरेडी हमारे इस पे बात कर चुकी हैं, सो एंड दैट वाज प्रीटी गुड हमारा, सो आई जस्ट स्किप दैट कि फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट्स को एम्प्लॉय करने पे टैक्स क्रेडिट ऑफर किया जा रहा है। सिमिलरली प्रपोज किया गया है कि छोटे बिजनेसेस, हॉस्पिटल, एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो हैं उनके लिए अलग सिंपलर रिजीम गवर्नमेंट बाद में अनाउंस करेगी, जहां पे उनके ऊपर ये जो रेगुलेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स का पैटर्न है ये मिनिमाइज हो जाए। ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग रिपोर्ट रिक्वायर की गई है इंडिपेंडेंट सीएस एंड सीएमए से, एंड वी बिलीव इसमें बाकी सारी अकाउंटिंग बॉडीज को भी शामिल होना चाहिए। पावर्स टू कॉन्फिस्केट एसेट्स प्रपोज की गई है कि अगर कमिश्नर जो है उसको लगे कि अनडिस्क्लोज फॉरेन करेंसी गोल्ड किसी घर में है तो वो इसको रेट कर सके, लेकिन as per our interactions it seems like, and Suhaili Saab is in a better position to guide, but it appears this won't go through, so don't worry too much about that, not that high in witness. Anyway, रिलीफ जो ऑडिट के हवाले से पहले था कि 3 साल में सिर्फ एक दफा हो सकता है, वो प्रपोज किया गया है कि इट शुड बी एंडेड, यानी किसी भी साल ऑडिट हो सके, चाहे 3 साल मुसलसल भी आ जाए, इट वुडंट मैटर एज लॉन्ग एज आप पैरामीटर्स पे पूरे उतर रहे हैं, एफपीआर शुड बी अलाउड टू डू योर ऑडिट। SRO 1125 जो है 2011 का, फॉर दोज हु डोंट नो, ये हमारे 5 मेजर जो एक्सपोर्ट ओरिएंटेड सेक्टर्स हैं उनको रिलीफ देता है। इसको विड्रॉ करना प्रपोज किया गया है। उसकी जगह स्टैंडर्ड रेट ऑफ 17% और कुछ आइटम्स को एज स्केड्यूल में ऐड करके, ये सेल्स टैक्स के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात हो रही है, 10 और 15% रेट प्रपोज किया गया है। कॉटेज इंडस्ट्री की डेफिनेशन जो है उसको चेंज करना प्रपोज किया गया है। इसी तरह जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट एट्रीब्यूटेबल टू सप्लायर्स टू अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन है उसको डिसअलाउ करना प्रपोज किया गया है। इनपुट टैक्स की जो एडजस्टेबिलिटी है वो करंट सेल्स टैक्स लॉस के मुताबिक 90% पे रिस्ट्रिक्टेड है। जितनी मर्जी आप परचेजेस कर लें, आउटपुट के 90% से ज्यादा क्लेम नहीं कर सकते। प्रपोज किया गया है कि कमिश्नर सर्टेन केसेस में जहां उसको जेन्युइन लगे इसको अप टू 95% अलाउ कर दें। प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी की जो टैक्स लायबिलिटी है पहले डायरेक्टर्स की 20 और सेपरेटली होती थी, प्रपोज किया गया है कि 10% से ज्यादा शेयर होल्डिंग रखने वाले शेयर होल्डर्स तक इसको एक्सपेंड किया गया है। इसी तरह जो रिवीजन ऑफ सेल्स टैक्स रिटर्न है एट प्रेजेंट वो कमिश्नर की अप्रूवल के बगैर नहीं हो सकती, एंड रियली इट्स अ टीडियस प्रोसेस। और प्रैक्टिकली इसका मतलब होता है कि आपको ऑडिट स्टार्ट हो जाएगा as long as you apply for it except for a few circumstances। प्रपोज किया गया है कि उसको ऑटोमेट कर दिया जाए सब्जेक्ट टू 2 कंडीशंस कि जो आपकी रिवाइज रिटर्न है या तो उसके अंदर आप जो डिक्लेयर कर रहे हैं उसके नतीजे में ज्यादा टैक्स लायबिलिटी बन रही हो या जो रिफंड आपने क्लेम किया है वो रिड्यूस हो गया हो। एंड दिस ब्रिंग्स अस टू द एंड लास्ट ऑफ द स्लाइड्स। स्टील सेक्टर के हवाले से रिजीम को चेंज कर दिया गया है, प्रपोज किया गया है। रिमेंबर ये भी हम प्रपोजल्स की बात कर रहे हैं, दे हैव टू गेट पास थ्रू एंड देन बिकम फाइनेंस टू बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड। तो इनमें से हो सकता है कि काफी प्रपोजल्स अमेंड हो। स्टील सेक्टर पहले इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूनिट्स के यूज की बेसिस पे उस पे सेल्स टैक्स चार्ज किया जाता था। अब प्रपोज किया गया है कि उसकी बजाय एक्साइज ड्यूटी इन सेल्स टैक्स मोड एट द रेट ऑफ 17% अप्लाई की जाए। इसी तरह एक अच्छा स्टेप जो किया गया है कस्टम्स के हवाले से, एट द मोमेंट डायरेक्टर वैल्यूएशन और कलेक्टर जो है दोनों के पास जुरिस्डिक्शन है वैल्यूएशन, और एट टाइम्स ये होता है कि उनकी वैल्यूएशन में फर्क आ जाता है, तो उस केस में फिर डीयू को रेफर होता है, इट्स अ टीडियस प्रोसेस। तो इसका चेंज प्रपोज किया गया है कि इंस्टेड कलेक्टर की ये पावर खत्म करके सिर्फ डायरेक्टर वैल्यूएशन जिसका ये काम है उसको ये पावर दी जाए कि वो इसकी वैल्यूएशन। प्रोविजनल क्लियरेंस ऑफ गुड्स फ्रॉम कस्टम प्रेजेंटली सिर्फ इंपोर्टर्स को अवेलेबल है, इसको एक्सपोर्टर के लिए एक्सपेंड करना भी प्रपोज किया गया है। So with that we come to the end of this presentation, जहाँ पे हमने briefly बात की कि ACCA ने क्या बजट प्रपोजल पेश किए, ग्लोबल फुटप्रिंट की वजह से किस तरह पाकिस्तान और उसकी इकोनॉमी में एक पॉजिटिव रोल प्ले करता है और कर सकता है, और हमारे ज्वाइंट बजट प्रपोजल्स में कितनी इंप्लीमेंटेशन हुई, एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट कि जो बजट प्रपोजल्स हैं उनके 23 मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट की चेंजेस जो प्रपोज किए गए हैं वो क्या है और हमें कैसे इम्पैक्ट करते हैं। टाइम की कमी की वजह से और बिकॉज वी हैव अ वेरी एक्सपर्ट पैनल वेटिंग फॉर एक्सपर्ट डिस्कशन, आई वुडंट डिस्कस एनी मोर ऑन दैट। विद दैट आई वुड लाइक to change the role and now move on to the panel discussion. So for panel discussion, I would like to request, first of all, our honorable and distinguished guests. Many of you already know him, see him on the various television programs, also sits on the Economic Advisory Council, one of the brilliant brains in our country in terms of the economic policies, Dr. Abid Qayyum Suleri. Please give him a big hand, Executive Director of the Board. Next up, I would like to request, I think he was late, he has, okay. So we'll be waiting for Zia Saab to join us in a bit. Meanwhile, I'll move on to Salman Amin Saab, who's a senior energy professional, works at very important key positions, and we are proud to share he is our senior fellow member. Salman Saab, please join us on. अच्छा, आपकी तालियां इतनी थकी हुई है, sometime you'll get a chance to come on stage. So जिस तरह अपने लिए बजवाना चाहेंगे ना, अगर थोड़ा उस तरह कर दो। These guys are taking time out for me. Next up, one of my personal favorites, a very humble personality, a great supporter of ACCA, and a champion of CPAC, perhaps one of the most knowledgeable persons on the topic in the country. The project director for CPAC, Mr. Hassan Rawat. Last but not the least, in any case, the Chief Macroeconomist, Ministry of Planning, Development and Reforms, Mr. Zafrul Hassan Saab. Please join us on stage. Please give him a big round. Thank you, gentlemen, for sparing the time and honoring us with your presence here. We are lucky to have such an expert panel for the group discussion here today. So I would like to start in no particular order with Dr. Abid Karim Sulairi sir. Dr. Sir, while there has been a lot of discussion in the context of budget and budgetary reforms, people want to know what has been the impact on businesses of certain changes. For example, the requirement to do transactions through the banking channel. Some people argue that it's a very good step because it would incentivize people to come within the formal banking channels and all that. But there is also fear that without addressing the core problems within the taxation system, such moves in the past have not been that successful. And people normally tend to hide their cash or go black, go more undocumented. So how do you see these changes impacting the economy? And do you think they will be successful this time? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. First of all, I really appreciate ACCA convening this session and having discussion, and also congratulate all the representative bodies that many of your recommendations they are either partially completely considered in the forthcoming budget. Now, the topic, the point that we have raised, the implementation of economy and how it would impact businesses. I think we need to understand the economy in the context of critical economy. And critical economy is that this budget is presented where it's not only the income expenditure assessment for the next fiscal year, but it's also presented in a year where Pakistan was struggling not to be placed in FATF blacklist, which is monitoring Pakistan and still on track action. We will be reporting till October to prove that our rules and policies and laws they completely curb money laundering and terrorism finances. And then we have to keep in mind that this budget is prepared while Pakistan is about to sign the next IMF 22nd IMF program. For that to happen, this budget has to be approved by 29th of June because IMF board meeting, executive board meeting will be on 3rd of July. And as per rules, Pakistan has to complete its prior actions 5 days before the executive board meeting. So the deadline that the government has is to get this budget approved by 29th of June. And then this budget is presented where for the first time Pakistan is facing huge shortage of revenue. So looking at the 15-20 budgets of the previous years, you will find a peculiar pattern that is not there anymore this year. So what was happening, and especially after the 18th amendment, after paying the provincial share, the net federal revenue, they were barely sufficient to meet the two non-discretionary expenditure of the state, which is debt repayment and debt service and defense. This year, after paying provincial share, government would have around 3,400 billion rupees, 3,462 to be precise, and it has to take care of 3,975 billion rupees debt service and foreign loan repayment. So for the first time in the history of Pakistan, the net federal revenue, they are not even sufficient to pay the markup and the loans. And then we have to take care of defense, we have to take care of pensions, we have to take care of day-to-day running of the government, we have to take care of grants and subsidies, we have to take care of public sector development program, and all the contingencies. So literally, government has to improve its revenue. Government has to avoid getting blacklisted in FATF, and government has to take care of the IMF. Now, in the beginning, it would definitely pinch the businesses. But I think we need to, again, I will give you a couple of analogies that why I think it would be successful. So those of you who are of my age here, very few perhaps, you will remember that when manual identity cards were issued, it was very common practice. People they could have multiple identity cards. So all one needs to do is to pay the registration office clerk 500 rupees, 1,000, and you get as many identity cards as you wanted to. And then came this computerized identity card. Again, people they got some of their manual card converted into more than one computerized identity card. One fine morning, government started giving advertisements that those who are having more than one identity card, they should surrender. People, they ignored it, and then there were advertisements where the images of all the cards that a person possessed with different names, those were there. And a deadline was given that after this, the criminal charges for the fraudulent practices would be registered for those who hold more than one identity card. People, they had to surrender their identity cards. More recently, when the biometric verification was made mandatory for telephone SIMs, many people they ignored it in the beginning, and now you can't even think of having a SIM connection without biometric verification. All you can do perhaps is to send someone else with the CRIC with a thumb impression, but someone has to do this biometric verification or is our own CRIC. You can't have a telephone connection without biometric verification. And more recently, PTA, when it started its campaign against handsets for duties not paid, many thought that it would not be possible. And now it's possible. So the point I'm trying to make is that businesses, of course, they will feel the heat in the beginning, but with the information technology, with the technological advancement, I don't see businesses to escape all these verification money. So they would have to get their economy documented, they would have to get their assets documented. Although I can see that there are certain problems of synchronization. On Friday, I logged into FTR portal, I logged into NADRA portal. On NADRA, I realized that temporary employment addresses which are given for me were 10 years old. They also had details of 4 vehicles for me, three out of those 4 I have already sold in past 10 years, but those are still there. And I think the major problem would be for professionals like me who have to fly at least twice per month. They showed 100 and something travels for me during last 5 years.
You have to justify the
law. Be a good justification for tax commissioner to pick me and audit me. Then I checked at FTR. FTR's total is still incomplete. It still doesn't have my property details. It still doesn't have my vehicle detail. Something which is there on both portals is withholding taxes. It is and my total value and whether I am an active taxpayer or not. So of course, once this data would get synchronized, and remember, government has data for 57 million customers. So I don't see any escape. So businesses initially they would be reluctant, they would feel the heat, they would feel the pinch, but ultimately they would have to get used to it. As now we are used to having our telephone biometric verification, or we are used to having only one CRIC or having a PTA duty paid handset.
Very pragmatic and sensible as always. Thank you for giving us all these stats and the strategic view as well as the example. Before I go on to the next question, some good news for you. आप सब अपने अपने सवाल प्रिपेयर करें। एक सवाल और मैं ओपन पुट करने लगूँ, उसके बाद आप लोगों के सारे सवाल लाएंगे। एक छोटी सी रिक्वेस्ट होगी, हमारी कोशिश ये है कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा मेंबर्स को हम मौका दें इंगेज करने का। तो सवाल आपने पूरा काम करें, जो आपके जहन में मिसाल के तौर पे इस डेटाबेस की क्या इम्प्लीकेशन है, ये जो चेंज आए इसका क्या असर है, ठीक है, ताकि हम ज़्यादा लोगों को मौका दे सकें। और अगर आप किसी स्पेसिफिक गेस्ट से सवाल करना चाहें तो आप कह सकते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल कि मैं हसन साहब, आबिद साहब they are ये just we guessed about them. Otherwise, general हुआ तो फिर हम अपने guess को put करेंगे. Actually, before we go on to the audience, the only reason I'm asking two questions is to set the tone of the discussion. The real idea is to have our audience here put questions to you. I'll just continue from where Abid Saab has ended. Two major databases were released, the NADWA database and the FPR database. And most of the people are saying that their data is not really as per their actual records. Now, Abid Saab has clarified, and rightly so, that the FPR database is still work in process. The data is being uploaded. What do you think would this have any impact on the government's effort to encourage people to come within the documented economy and the ongoing asset declaration ordinance, commonly referred to as tax amnesty? Would people be now thinking, okay, perhaps they don't have the data, so we don't need to go there? Or would people be listening to the learned professionals like Dr. Saab and understand that the data is still being in the process of being uploaded? So this is an open question, whoever would like to address that.
First, thank you, Umar, and we always have the intention of talking too much on taxation. So I was happy that the panel discussion is going towards macroeconomic, but we are again inclining towards the tax issue. Anyhow, answering your question, I think this database is not something which is new, which is being carried out. If you recall, almost 10 years back, this was a project by the name of Tax Administration Reform Project, TRP, which was funded by World Bank and DFID, and the purpose was to have common tax identifier. And at that time, 10 years back, we were having a common tax identifier in shape of your CNIC. And at that time, NADRA and FPR were working on that. 10 years down the road, we are again on the same track, but now with more aggression and more purpose, and linking all the aspects. Your banking transaction, the type of traffic, your tracking details, your property, your vehicle, any person buying over 2400cc vehicle, linking all these with your credit card details even. Now the common tax identifier is going to, I think, help to a certain extent, in shape of broadening the tax net. But this does not in itself is ensuring that the tax evasion will stop. The tax avoidance, well, we know is legitimate, you have to allow it, and thanks to professionals like ACCA, ICMA, they are good at tax avoidance. But tax evasion to a certain extent would be able to curtail, but having a database is not in itself an answer that it will going to resolve all the tax collection, particularly in this budget when we have got 5.5 trillion target. So that is a very uphill task, and database administration is just small steps towards that direction.
Thank you, Salman, and thank you for your kind words. I always enjoy listening to you, and don't worry, this was just a taster of what is to come. Be ready for the macroeconomic answers. So I'll open the question answer session for our audience now. Who would like to go? Oh, we have the head of ACCA Pakistan.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sajid Aslam. I'm head of ACCA Pakistan. A question first from both the economists. Right now we are struggling. What is the right number for GDP growth? There are multiple numbers which are floating. One from the finance ministry and some of the hints which we are getting from the planning side of it, or Ministry of Planning. And the GDP growth rate which is being quoted, they are not very exciting. And that's bringing me back to the CPAC question, where we are entering into the industrialization phase. And if we are not seeing that GDP growth either accounted for by finance or the planning ministry, so what we don't know, we would like to know that one, what's the missing link? And coming back to Salman, your side, the previous GDP growth was backed by a lot on an energy sector side of it. So, and that sector is still require a lot of investment if we talk about the distribution network side. So the GDP rate which is being quoted, that's the first question. It's not reflecting the CPAC and the energy side of investments in a true sense, or there's something which is a missing link, at least for us, to once we talk to the international investors or on an international forum, these questions need a certain clarity that how people should see Pakistani economy in the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you, Sujeet. Fantastic question. So, three parts, linking you all together in the conversation, starting with you, Zafar, the difference in these stats.
Actually, GDP growth, this is the domain of the planning commission because it is mandated to give the projection for the GDP for any year. This is first time what is happening that Finance Division has picked number from the IMF MEFP and they have given it into the budget document. Otherwise, still, IMF has a strong belief that the adjustment program are always contracting economic growth. And this is practically not happening in 2013 or 2008. GDP growth was not contracted by that much. This year was the worst year for agriculture. This year we have good rains and we expect that water availability for agriculture will be better than last year. So they're all optimism that the GDP growth will be higher than 3.3% registered this year because LSM registered negative growth, lot of uncertainty surrounding election or after election. So these all damage GDP growth to 3.3. So next year will be better off than this year. So on that optimism, we have projected that GDP will grow by 4%. So this is the planning commission number, this was approved, and this was the mandate of the planning commission. Finance division, actually, what happened in the past, they used to print the macro framework of the planning commission. This time they have taken from the IMF. So most credit numbers will be from the planning commission, which is based upon a lot of consultation for the 5-year plan or many input from the experts. So in the adjustment process, slowed down the growth, but we, if we see for since 2009 onward, nearly 4% is the norm, not exception in the difficult situations.
So fantastic news, and we would love to believe your figure because that gives us more hope. So good news, guys, it's not 3.3, it's expected to be 4. Asal sir, Sajid is asking the numbers don't add up. CPEC going into expansion phase, industrialization. Growth rate, what's happening?
In a typical case of investment, perhaps the investor will look into the GDP growth and how, considering the risk and the mitigation factor. But CPEC is unique in its many ways, especially when it comes to investment. The previous investment, mostly even in the energy sector or in some of the other sectors, was basically state-owned enterprises. So, hovering around the governments of both sides under agreements and MOUs being done under the umbrella of larger BRI projects. As far as the GDP growth is concerned, I think CPEC would still contribute in the overall GDP, especially with industrialization. With the kind of pull factor that we want to create, there would be certain sort of bottlenecks, especially with the revolving dollar rate that might perhaps somehow create the sort of resistance in an investor's interest in Pakistan. But overall, the environment as far as Chinese investors is concerned is quite favorable. Outside China and looking at the US-China crisis that is going on, I think, and with the relocation that is predicted, still Pakistan offers a lot of opportunities to Chinese investment. And we had a recent B2B session held in Marriott just a few days back. And there were a lot of leading Chinese investors who would come to on the instruction of the government. I think we still should work on the pull factor that we're creating, and we have requested the Chinese government, especially MOFCOM and developing NDRC, to create that pull factor from the government side. Because still, even in this time and age, most of the private sector businesses are still backed by state-owned enterprises. So I guess that would not be impacted in a big way. Those under the long-term plan of CPEC will continue. We still see a lot of interest in Russia. I see a lot of interest in, especially one down in province, showing a lot of interest in Dhabeji, Sindh, and Festabad, for natural reasons of textile, a lot of Sindh. So I think CPEC would still impact positively. And just a small point that I would like to add, that the government is also cognizant of the fact that CPEC would support. That's why if you look at the ESGP indicators, the budget that has been kept, sizable amount has been kept for CPEC and also for the Western Corridor and some of the projects in Balochistan, because they link up well when you connect Gawada with most of the projects in this is 2019 is going to be good year for Gawada also. We have the airport work started, we have the other important projects to be started this year. And of course, I'm sure you know that under the social sector development budget, we've kept $1 billion grant from China. So the good is still flowing from CPEC.
Just backing your point, this trade war between US and China also presents a very unique opportunity for Pakistan because now they are limited in terms of how much export they can do, coupled with the fact that they want to move on to high-tech. So their traditional industry, they either have to relocate to places like Vietnam, Thailand, etc., to export from there. But Pakistan is best placed strategically.
I think for any business, you need to still look at opportunities while you also look at threats. So when say it's good to dream, but when you dream, you should be careful it might come true. So while we're looking at some of building investors' confidence, we are also aware of some of the concerns of local investors. So we want to do the sort of bridge between the two business communities. That's why we established a CPEC or commonly known as China-Pakistan Business Forum. So that would actually support us so that the concern of local businesses are also kept in mind. And while we see relocation, we still like to have joint ventures where technology transfer can take place.
The first of I'll come to you in a minute. So, sir, what's happening? Energy is better. We had a Ramadan pretty much free of load shedding, or much less of that. Seems like we are in a better shape. The projections don't add up. Where is the electricity going?
Firstly, I must appreciate the question from Sajid because this is exactly the question when I was working in Nepal on integrated energy plan. And what we received from Minister Watan Batu at TDC were three scenarios for GDP growth: 5%, 6%, and 7%. So the worst scenario was 5%, and now I got the best scenario of 4%. Now, linking, power sector, when you link the power sector with, it has to be integral over three overall economic development metrics. When you mismatch between the power sector development, power sector growth with the overall economic agenda, the result is more and more capacity charges and more burdening of the consumer. Right now, we are into IMF program, about to enter an IMF program, hopefully by 3rd of July, as we all know. This IMF program is expected to further slow down our economy, further slow down this energy power sector demand. But on the other side, we have already installed capacity of 32,000 megawatt, and more plants are about to attain commercial operations in the next 2 to 3 years. Linking with GDP, having IMF program, things are not good. There is a complete mismatch, I can say openly. And when I am listening to planning department, planning division 4%, I have got more concerns that energy minister want to induct renewable energy, the tariffs given, the LOI is given, they say 14,000 megawatts are work in progress. Who is going to consume this energy? and how it is going to contribute towards economic development when you have got a policy rate of 12.25%. Who is going to borrow that money? Who is going to have compete in the international market? And then we have got tariffs, and then we have got devaluation. Link all these 5, 6 parameters. There is a mismatch, and this is something as regulator NAFTA has repeatedly highlighted. And this is the concern which Sujit is saying. I fully support it. Rather, I would say the situation is going to elevate if we don't match out our things. And very precisely, if I want to put in one liner, this is a budget when there was no integrated energy plan in place, and there was no power policy in place, and we have a budget.
Abil sir, just a very quick remark because I want to go to our attendees. Had this IMF package or deal resulting in a mismatch, we have spare capacities and all, we don't have enough business potential to consume.
Of course, IMF will be more focused on macroeconomic stabilization. My own match is our GDP growth would remain somewhere around 3.5 to 4. The reason Ministry of Finance they quoted 2.4, my assessment is they didn't want to raise expectation very high. I agree with Zaid that agriculture perhaps would perform better. And we need to keep in mind that agriculture is one of our it's only equal to percent of our GDP, but looking at all of the indirect effects of agriculture, a bad monsoon or a bad harvesting season that can actually ruin our whole GDP, or it can make our whole GDP. So one is expecting and one is hopeful that this year agriculture will perform better, and if it performs better, keeping all of the factors constant, which were there for our outgoing fiscal year, I hope we can very easily get 3.5 plus as a GDP. But it's good that Minister of Finance didn't raise much expectation.
Okay, great. So now guys, this is your chance. Okay, we have a question here. Kindly the mic DJ. Extreme left. आप काइंडली खड़े होके अपना पहले ब्रीफ इंट्रो दे दें, आपका नाम, कहाँ पे आप काम करते हैं, फिर सवाल और किससे पूछें।
From World Bank, consultant economic reform limited. My question is that Salman was very right that this will be very challenging here, like having a very high inflation rate, 13.2%, never been in last decade, policy rate of 12.1%, the rupee depreciating on weekly basis. So don't you feel that it will have, even the GDP growth won't be equal to 4%, it can be less than 2% at times.
You want to ask this from anyone specific?
Most of it from Zafar Sahib.
Zafar Sahib, he's saying he thinks it will be 2%. You are saying 4%.
I think you're from World Bank or
We can hear that.
ERQ, which is dealing with this 2.4% figure. But I think what I was also part of the team that was negotiating with IMF from 2008 to 2013 when I was in Ministry of Finance. IMF is conservative because they have certain parameters which have very high elasticity with regard to current account deficit. If they see, again, if growth is going up to 3%, they have different number of current account deficit, which means they are requiring net reserve requirement will be high. So they place growth rate until they are conservative about it. In 2008, in 2013, they were very conservative. And our growth numbers are far higher than IMF. It is just a matter of few minutes of research. You can go to the IMF website and download 2008 report and 2013 report. You can see the projection of IMF and what is the ultimate result. So the growth generating process in Pakistan is totally different. It is more agriculture related, agriculture based, because agriculture is 1/5 of the only 20% of the GDP, but it's a significant impact on demand for services, which has a significant impact on demand for durable industrial products, and even automobile, these things. When you have a bad harvest, the demand for these things goes down, even construction sector, which is a negative growth, -7.5% last year. If we have a good monsoon like this, because the 2 years of prolonged dry spell has had an impact last year. This year, because a lot of water availability is still very good, and we expect that it will have in making agriculture grow very good, will have a good services sector. In the planning period, we had a lot of discussion that we should be very realistic. So we should not this target was or like if GDP grew by 3.8%, then we are close to this target. If GDP grew by 2%, we will better the planning conditions. If we have not given good growth strategy, so our growth strategy based upon certain parameters, and 2.4% figure is in contradiction to the budget. What is given in the budget? You have a special package for the agriculture sector. It is not impacting agriculture growth. It means it is a favor of the budget. You have given certain incentives export-oriented industries. If they are not working, they are not delivering export surplus, they will take into the GDP growth as well. So there are a lot of things given in the budget. If they are not working,
So, sorry, Victor. The incentive to growth-oriented industries is actually withdrawn. It's proposed to be withdrawn.
I think five areas you have mentioned in your presentation, previously zero rated, now the 17% tax is imposed. Now think of export items which was previously sold in $10, which was multiplied by 105, now it is multiplied by 150. So he's getting 45 rupees, if it's giving 70% tax, he's still better off. So, if the government, and this tax is not imposed on, there is a tax imposition on the domestic consumption of these items of export industry. It means you can get refund if FDR, because we have a bad history of refund. And that's what happened during the last 2-3 years to meet IMF requirement of tax target. We had given for choke refund system, and more than 200 million are still pending. So if automated, we are moving towards automated refund system, then this will be an incentive rather than disincentive. So this will have growth, not concentrated growth.
Okay, I have a very interesting question for all of you. Well, ACC members feel that Pakistan needs to grow at least at 7% for next 3 to 5 years to catch up with other countries in the region. So first of all, can you see that potential? Do you believe that is achievable?
I think in order to respond to this question, we need to understand the chronic issues affecting our economy, and not during the last 5 years, but at least during the last 15 years. So we had a problem of multi-sector debt, we have a problem of low tax to GDP ratio, low direct tax collection and undocumented economy. We have a problem where we overvalue the rupee. Just to give you numbers, during last 6 years, 5 years of PMLN government and till March 2019, state bank they injected $44 billion in foreign exchange market to keep rupee stable. So of course, when you are overvaluing your rupee, you are not only subsidizing your imports, you are killing your local industry and people. They will find imported items in their access, financial access. They will not move for local products, and that somehow curbed our capacities and potential of our local industry. And on top of everything, we have this public sector enterprises. Now, we can grow with the, and we can attain this GDP growth of 7% or even more. But in order to do that, we have to resolve our chronic issues. Unfortunately, none of the political governments was successful in it, because whoever tried to do it, they have to lose their political capital. I pray that this government, if it's taking some tough scenes and tough measures, it remains consistent and it remains persistent to it. The moment we plug these loopholes, only then we can think of 7% GDP. Otherwise, with the public sector enterprises, which is consuming up your 800 billion rupees per annum, and your energy sector debt and plastic charges, which is again consuming as much as your defense budget for the year, and which is keeping the rupee overvalued, that consumes your $44 billion, and with low tax GDP rate, we would have to remain contented at 3.54%, certainly not sustainable.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I would now like to welcome the President of ICMAP, Ziazat. Welcome. We were waiting for you, and while we were waiting for your lecture, we had a very interesting and engaging pragmatic discussion on different macroeconomic factors in the context of the budget. So the discussion we are having right now is, we do know that projections for growth are low. Dr. Abid was just explaining that these have been unpopular but necessary tough decisions that hopefully would set the platform for the growth. ACC members believe that Pakistan should be able to achieve 7% plus growth for, obviously this year is on, from next year onward. What do you believe can be the key drivers for that kind of growth in future?
Thank you very much. Thanks to ACC Pakistan for inviting me. Sorry for the delay. I was able to occupy in the SBR, normally committee. I'm one of the members of the budget and committee. So we were from the since 10 a.m. we are engaging. Robert, who has a relevant speaker, and definitely they have shared their thoughts about the budget. Your specific question, how we will achieve the budget growth, the targets. So, in order to achieve all such targets, there are two things that are very much important. Two to three things. I will discuss two to three things. One is ease of doing business. So you have to simplify your laws, regulatory environment. So these things need to be improved. So you can give the margins to the business community, you can create a beneficial environment for the investments. So this is one thing which is necessary to achieve this. And secondly, the relevant human resource in the government entities, especially the regulators and the decision-making forums. So when we're talking about the decision-making forums and the regulators, I am addressing to the FBR, Federal Board of Revenue. So your tax laws are right now very complicated, and for any businessman, it is very difficult even for a qualified person. It's very difficult to handle the number of agencies and number of tax authorities. So we have to simplify these things, and this thing can be done only if there are related professions. And when I am talking about the related profession in tax, then accountants are the most relevant professionals to be in the Board of Revenues, in the Auditor General of Pakistan, in the Auditor General of Pakistan. Likewise, government has, Institute of Exchange Commission of Pakistan has given the role to the professional, and this organization is comparatively better than the SGR, State Bank of Pakistan. They have the professional group for the professional accountants, for MBAs, for IT students, for lawyers, everything. So we must have a relevant HR, and the regulatory environment should be, facilitate for easy to do business. So these are the two things which I think can be.
Thank you, Zara. We actually shared that proposal. So I would like Hassan Sir to guide us. What do you believe could be key changes? We do know post-budget is a process where you can still advise the government that perhaps consider these things. If you were to advise, what are, let's say, the top three things you would advise could be done differently from it?
I'll answer that question in two parts. One of it would naturally be as a government official. So I would perhaps give you a very rosy picture as a government official should be. And that might not be attractive to the audience, usually it is not. But the other part would be as an academic, I would also like to highlight some of the concerns that I always have. And I keep sharing it with my students and wherever I go in such a public gathering. When you have eminent speakers, when they've highlighted some of the bottleneck that we have, when the question मैं थोड़ा सा उसको भी objection है कि should have 7% growth is yes, we should have 7% of growth, but there are so many ifs and buts attached to it. आप 7% growth achieve कर लें तो आपको कोई हटाएगा नहीं like Narendra Modi, you would get a lot of political space. The issue is कि हम, and I keep saying this, and I'm sorry अगर यहाँ से हम जिस तरह की क्रिकेट टीम के बारे में कहते हैं बहुत टैलेंट है, लेकिन after 100 matches, इसी तरह हमारी HR का भी प्रॉब्लम है, and I am to be blamed for this because I represent it. हमारी quality of HR उतनी नहीं है जो कि आपको 7% of growth पे दे. ये मेरा अपना पर्सनल. Why? Because I compare it with China. I've lived in China for 10 years when I look at their HR. किसी भी सेक्टर में आप देखें, सर्विसेज सेक्टर में यहाँ पे आप थोड़ी देर बाद देखिएगा मीटर्स का रिस्पॉन्स जिस तरह भी ये हो रहा है उधर नहीं होगा. When people are speaking and then somebody picking up the rostrum, ये ऐसे नहीं होगा China. So ये आप ख्वाब देखें, आप बहुत अच्छे हैं, जरूर देखें 7% या 27% देखें, लेकिन काम करें, उसके लिए मेहनत करें, उसके लिए टैक्स दें, उसके लिए yes, the government has to do certain things also. Ease of doing business is one, and Prime Minister Imran Khan is clear about his objectives as far as ease of doing business is concerned. लेकिन क्या आप लोग as a society ready हैं ease of doing business के लिए? 4 चाइनीज अगर सेंटोरस में घूमने लग जाए तो आप सबको परेशानी हो जाएगी. आपके मुल्क के अंदर ही 4 चाइनीज आ जाए तो आप कहते हैं the common phrase और यूज करते हैं ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी आ गई. So are you geared up for attracting investment? Are you all ready? अगर आप अपने आप को रेडी कर लें उसके लिए ease of doing business इंश्योर करने एज a society, आप खुद दूसरों के मुल्क में जाके काम करने के लिए तैयार होते हैं. But if a foreigner comes and works here, आप उसके लिए it creates a lot of bottlenecks. This is, I feel, because when I came back from China, I saw this happening. When I interacted with a lot of my customers, I would say, because it's my duty to support Chinese who come here as a bridge between the two. तो मुझे नजर आता है कि उनकी concerns हैं, और मुझे ये भी नजर आता है कि हम चाहते हैं कि 70% ह्यूमन रिसोर्स सीपर के प्रोजेक्ट्स में पाकिस्तानी एम्प्लॉय, लेकिन उनकी एफिशिएंसी है क्या? ये सब चीजें हैं. ये क्वेश्चन, आई लीव दिस क्वेश्चन टू यू बिफोर यू आस्क मी.
Also, you will be very popular आपने यहाँ sentiments को आवाज दी. I'll put the same question to you. Let's try to focus on that. Specific. 3 things you think still could be done differently, which can result in better prospects, higher growth, better business environment. Any particular proposals?
I think I must agree with Jayasa. He mentioned about the ease of doing business. There is no true voice that we, over the years, we have created this incentive of any kind of investment into Pakistan to over-regulation and over-administration. So we have to degrade the economy and from the government footprints. The government must reduce the footprint into the directly regulating method. They can regulate, efficiently regulate, but not over-regulate. So we have to degrade the construction sector, we have to degrade different things. But one important area which I think we can learn from East Asia, which focused upon like some words are mentioned about the quality of HR. So for quality of HR, you have to focus upon the technical and vocational education. I think the most vulnerable or missing link in the Pakistan's overall HR is the technical and capacity of the technical and vocational education. So we have learned and fast and nurse in different conventional education systems, but we do not have certain vocational education in modern institutions. So we have in the planning commission prepared 5-year plan and.
So what about the likes of EFTA? Government says we have very good institutions.
This is again a bad example of over-regulation or government footprint. You have to create incentives for the private sector to getting or imparting technical education, rather than you have created another monster of it or any skill development council or anything. Uh, Let the private sector come forward and impart technical and vocational education. Government can only provide regulatory framework, regulate them, and then I think we will deliver quality. Like the nurse might be have a government footprint, but sector, not in the government sector. So the technical and vocational education is the key. And the fastest growing sector in the GDP for the last 10 years is guest book sector. It is petty services like outsourced industry, freelancing, content writing. It has 7-8% growth every year for the last 10 years. What we have done for this sector, we have created hurdles after hurdle. We have not provided payment system to them. We have created another hurdle recently. Okay, we have to register a company or just getting money from outside has become too difficult. So just debate this factor and allow our youth from nurse to nuns or any private university or any other institution to go online and look for opportunities. And I think this sector will give a lot of growth. 7-8% now instead of all these restrictions. So if you debate this sector, this can give you 13-14%. It has enormous potential and it is also expanding, and its share of investment is also increasing over the last 10 years.
Thank you, Zafar, for your valued input. So, human resource development, liberating and facilitation by the government are the way forward as per Zafar. I received very interesting 4 questions. 2 of them seems like a very tricky one. One is for you, Dawsa. So all for I can read them, but I think it would be more interesting if we let the people asking the questions ask them themselves. So the first one is from Amara Latif, China Road and Bridge Corporation. Amara, and that's directed for you also, sir.
The contracts and agreements obtained under MOUs, could those agreements be challenged in the court for not following the fair dealing process?
It depends on the contract. It depends on the contract. For instance, if it's a government to government contract, then the liabilities and the mitigation and litigation process is different actually. If it's in a private sector, I mean B2B engagement, then of course the entire process. But what we did in 2013 when we were working on this CPAC was that we created the Joint Cooperation Committee. Because agar 2013 की document को देखिए, it talks about dealing with issues. Because in project there would always be issues. In dealing with issues through friendly negotiation, and that friendly negotiation will take place in GCC. This is as far as the overall context of CPAC or government to government, any government to government initiative, even if it's with Turkey or with this. Now, it is slightly different when it comes to an IPP project. For instance, if it's an IPP project of energy, then the regulatory framework is different. It is it's a commercial project naturally, so it's governed that way. The only thing that we have done is just that if we go into litigation, then the seat of litigation would, in most of the cases, will be Islamabad or Pakistan. So that in that case we could, actually fight our case better because in the past we had bad experiences. So overall, and the good news is that thus far we have had no issues. We have 34 billion worth of projects actually on ground, energy sector, 28 billion remaining. We have no issues as far as CPEC projects are concerned. That means that the hard work that was done initially. You see, why I always keep about, also it's my duty to project CPEC. But what CPEC has actually done is demonstrated that the public sector along with private sector, autonomous bodies, military agencies. Any nation can do wonders when you have clear direction and objectives. In CPEC, you were given clear direction and targets. By 2016, you have to do such and such, sort of energy, say 4,000 megawatts into the circuit. This optical fiber converted to Pindi and going towards Karachi, and certain targets. And then for 2025, certain targets. So that was the best thing that has happened, and that's why there were no issues. Both the parties understood each other. There will be issues whenever you work in cross-cultural or cross-national. But when the government umbrella is there, the two strategic partners understand each other's concern, opportunities, threats, weaknesses, and strengths. I guess then that's why CPEC is done well. And this is a good model. We could try to emulate when we go into any strategic initiative like this.
Thank you, sir. I hope you are clear now. So now on to Ali. Ali, your question number one was already answered by Salman. He mentioned we have a lot of spare capacity. So I would request you to start with question 3, which can be answered by Ziyasa. Then question 2 can be answered by Salman. Please. Question 3 was about SRO 842, and your question 2 was about government allowing the local manufacturers to build the lines for transmission line and all that stuff.
सर ये तो ऐसे तो आपसे छोटे जो शायद मतलब जो मेरे साथ के जमाने में आए थे जिसमें ये कहा गया था कि अगर कोई मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का नुकसान है और अगर बड़ी चीज की बाहर से इम्पोर्ट होकर आती है तो 30% का मार्जिन होगा इसका बेनिफिट ये लोकल मैन्युफैक्चरर को दिया जाएगा यानी कि फर्स्ट कह रहे हैं कि लोकल की तैयारी 120 रुपये तो फर्स्ट करके लोकल तैयारी 100 रुपये और फिर बाहर से आगे हुआ है 80%। तो तब भी जो पब्लिक सेक्टर की एंटिटीज हैं ये इम्पोर्ट करने के वजह जो लोकल मैन्युफैक्चरर है कंपल्सरी होगा तो उसी से देगी। तो एक तो ये ऐसा हो कि प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इसमें का क्या है और दूसरा भी सुनने में आया था कि गवर्नमेंट इसको थोड़ा चेंज कर देगी यानी कि जो बैरियर इसको खत्म कर रहे हैं कैसे इन्फॉर्मेशन है
एग्जैक्टली इसका आंसर मैं अपडेट नहीं हुआ है if anybody else can answer this
ये सब मिनिस्टर की इंडस्ट्री प्रोडक्शन है
Minister of Industries and Production 844 की बात करते हैं
824
की बात
842 कहते हैं SRO also give protection to local manufacturer, and he is saying how do you see the government's efforts about the plans to change it. So this ties up थोड़ा सा इसको आपके लिए करती है क्योंकि it ties up with the point essence of what we are making just now. हम बात कर रहे हैं ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस की, लेकिन उसके साथ या हम प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं है या हम खौफ से कर रहे हैं एंड वी आर आल्सो आस्किंग फॉर प्रोटेक्शनिज्म। सो इट्स अ बैलेंसिंग एक्ट। जब आप ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस कह रहे हैं तो उसमें क्या आप फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर को निकाल के लोकल के लिए कह रहे हैं? जस्ट अ लिटिल कॉन्टेक्स्ट फॉर यू टू एड्रेस।
देखिए इसमें रेगुलेटरी ड्यूटी के थ्रू कंट्रोल तो ये कर रहे होते हैं कि दे हैव टू गिव अ मार्जिन to your local industries to play and perform because definitely we have a certain constraints in terms of quality production. तो उसमें हम compete तो कर नहीं सकते with these imported materials. So the government is always trying to give a protection for the local industry as well. तो इसमें भी कुछ रेगुलेटरी ड्यूटी दी गई है। मेरे पास कुछ केवल 3 से 4 एसोसिएशन हैं रास्ता किया केमिकल की कुछ एसोसिएशन और कुछ डिफरेंट टैनर्स की एसोसिएशन कुछ ऐसे मटेरियल्स हैं कि जिनके ऊपर वो कहते हैं कि आप ड्यूटी शुड बी ऑन द लोअर साइड कि आप ड्यूटी शुड बी ऑन द हायर साइड इफ इट इज इंपोर्ट ताकि आप लोकल इंडस्ट्री को प्रोटेक्शन दें। The objective of the local industry that government should control the import rather than they are believing on the competition, which you are saying that there should be some competition and we have to improve the quality, we have to improve the technology, we have to go at that scale of economy that fixed cost should be reduced and cost and the products should be competitive in the market. But on a certain level, sometimes associations are enough, they can put a pressure on the government that they need such kind of protection. So the company that they are giving such kind of protection to the locals.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly introduce Ali. Ali is basically Chief Internal Auditor at Pakistan Engineering Company Limited. Ali's next question is directed towards you, Sir Mansab, and after that I have a very interesting question for you, Dr. Sir. So, Sir Mansab, Ali is asking why the government doesn't permit local manufacturers to manufacture poles that can be used at transmission lines, such as Matiwari project, when we talk about the energy sector, growing that sector and all. So is it just only about the electricity production or it also includes the manufacturing side? If it does, why not incentivize local manufacturing?
Particularly, I think, अपने काफी डिटेल में power sector को study किया हुआ है. Anyhow, when I was going through this budget, this was my first aspect which I was looking into the budget. When I was looking from the power sector lens, and my first and foremost aspect was कि power sector के इस budget में है क्या? And while I was going through it, I didn't find much in this. For example, 90 billion for large hydro projects for land acquisition. Then, around 42 billion that is for transmission business. And again for NTPC and PESCO, not for private sector. And the third aspect was subsidy. 271 billion is the major portion जो है power sector inter disco जो होता है direct differential subsidy उसकी बात में क्या. Then I said the expenditure side, let me see what's on the revenue side. When I looked at towards the revenue side in that, this financial 2020, I found only 150 billion in power sector through privatization of two these RLNG projects, Haveli Bharat Shah and Pitti. And again, that was the time I said only 150 billion, why not any FDI for transmission segment? Why not we have, when we are definitely in need of high voltage transmission line, why we are not having budget? Budget is building towards it. Then, basic question, when I the party, the budget, the policy and the plan, all three have to work together and they are correlated to supplement and complement each other. The transmission policy exists? Answer is yes. In 2015, the government has given transmission policy, and so far only one project has been awarded under that, and that also under CPAC, and that also, what she was also mentioning, not under a competitive process. That policy prefers the competitive process, and have that, this government should have addressed that issue in this finance bill by highlighting and correlating FTI with the power sector issues, with the, how the overall nomenclature of power sector has to grow. So the answer is, it's not in the finance bill, but yes, government should mobilize, and that is a avenue, very good avenue for FTI.
Thank you so much, Salman sir. Last question for everyone, starting with Dr. Sir. Dr. Sir, you very pragmatically explained the issues with the economic situation and why these steps are necessary. The question is this, that some proponents of economic theory would argue that this is a never-ending cycle, that we are increasing the interest rates so that we can curb the inflation and control the currency rates continuous fluctuation. We increase the currency rates in the hope that exports will increase, but we have seen the result. Obviously, it's a time-consuming process, 2-3 years. So the impact is that inflation is rising. So the purchasing power of the people is reducing. As a result, businesses would lay off at least some people. So unemployment would rise. As a result, to control inflation, we are tightening the monetary policy as well as the fiscal policy. So the outlays are less and the capital available is less. As a result of that, less investment will go into business and the cycle will go on. So how will this reverse it?
उससे पहले अगर मैं अली के क्वेश्चन को अटेम्प्ट करने की कोशिश करूँ, इकोनॉमिक सर्वे पाकिस्तान में आपने देखा होगा the cost of acquisitions for economy. The figure is 950 billion rupees. Most of the cars are there. And this budget shows very clear direction. The government पिछले 2-3 सालों में is trying not only to harmonize and uniform the tax rates, but also to offload many of those SROs, including SRO जिसके भी बात कर रहे थे. 1600 आइटम जैसे कैरेक्टराइज इम्पोर्टेड रॉ मटेरियल की जिस पे टैरिफ कम कर दिया गया है। तो ऑब्वियसली जब वो टैरिफ कम होता है तो डेफिनेटली अगर पब्लिक प्रोक्योरमेंट में आपको ज़्यादा सस्ता मिलता है तो आप उस तरफ जा रहे होंगे। तो आई कैन सी कि अगर ये इस फाइनेंस बिल में डायरेक्टली नहीं तो आई एम श्योर कि जो ज़िया साहब की कमेटी है जो अमाउंट को देख रही है अमाउंट टैक्सेशन को, वहाँ पे जरूर आएगा कि गवर्नमेंट इज डिटरमिन्ड कि तमाम मसाइल जो है उनको अफोर्ड करना है। तो कमिंग बैक टू योर क्वेश्चन एंड अगेन अगर आपने हफीज पाशा साहब की जो रिसेंट बुक लॉन्च हुई है अगर उसको पढ़ा हो पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमी, उन्होंने लिखा है कि जो ओवर वैल्यूएशन ऑफ रुपी था that led Pakistan into a very rare Dutch disease। इकोनॉमी में डच डिजीज ये होती है कि आप किसी एक मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक इंडिकेटर को स्ट्रॉन्ग रखने के लिए बाकी तमाम मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक इंडिकेटर्स को कंप्रोमाइज कर रहे हैं। सो अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रेट को स्टेबल रखने के चक्कर में बाकी सारी चीजों का कंप्रोमाइज करके अब इसको हुआ क्या है कि अगर आप ये देखें कि स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान ने कितने नोट प्रिंट किए हैं तो फिर ये देखें कि कितने जो नोट है कितनी अमाउंट आपके बैंक्स में है, यू विल फाइंड कि ऑलमोस्ट क्लोज टू 2 ट्रिलियन रुपीस आपका इस वक्त बैंकिंग सेक्टर में नहीं है। अब आपको अगर उस 2 ट्रिलियन रुपीस को कैप्चर करना है तो आपको कुछ ना कुछ मेजर्स जो है वो देना पड़ेगा। तो ऑब्वियसली इकोनॉमी में सॉरी ये फिस्कल पॉलिसी में देयर इज नथिंग कि आप पॉइंट ए पे इंटरवेंशन करते हैं यू विल गेट योर इंटेंडेड एंड डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट्स एट पॉइंट बी, यू विल हैव सर्टेन उसके जो साइड इफेक्ट्स इन ऑर्डर टू अचीव वन, लेकिन आपको बैलेंस रखना है। इस वक्त इन्फ्लेशन में आप कोशिश कर रहा हूँ अगर सलमान शायद ज़्यादा बेहतर बता सके, अगर गैस की प्राइसेस जो है विंटर में उसके स्लैब थोड़े से बेहतर बना लिए जाए तो आई कैन टेल यू कि अगले फिस्कल ईयर में देख रहा हूँ कि ओवर जो एवरेज इन्फ्लेशन होगी ये डबल डिजिट में नहीं पहुंचेगी, ये 8 से 9% पे कंटेन की जा सकती है प्रोवाइडेड गैस प्राइसेस जो है उनके स्लैब थोड़े से रैशनल हो जाए। अगर वो रैशनल नहीं होंगे तो डेफिनेटली 12-13% तक चले जाएगी उससे भी ज्यादा, लेकिन अदरवाइज आप इसको कंटेन कर सकते हैं 9% तक। मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी पे बेसिकली जब नवंबर में डिसीजन हुआ था आईएमएफ के पास जाने का, स्टेट बैंक ओवर रिएक्टेड, स्टेट बैंक ने उस ओवर रिएक्शन में बेस रेट जो है वो बढ़ा दिया था, उसके बाद से जो बढ़ता चला जा रहा है। अगेन आई कैन सी कि अगर ये इन्फ्लेशन आपकी थोड़ी सी कंट्रोल में रहती है, अगर ये सिंगल डिजिट में रहती है तो आप सितंबर अक्टूबर के बाद देखेंगे कि शायद थोड़ा सा इसको मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी को ईज ऑफ किया जाए। लेकिन मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी को आप दूसरे स्पेक्ट्रम में देखिए ना, अगर आपका इंटरेस्ट रेट हाई होगा तो आपका सेविंग रेट जो है क्या वो बेहतर नहीं होगा? अगर इस वक्त आप बाकी तमाम चीजों पे जो वेल्थ पड़ी है कर्टेल कर रहे हैं, इकोनॉमी को डॉक्यूमेंट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, तो डोंट यू थिंक कि आपका जो सेविंग टू जीडीपी रेशियो है वो बढ़ेगा? डेफिनेटली जो एक साइकिल आपको बताया है कि इसी साइकिल को रिवर्स भी किया जा सकता है विद अदर सपोर्टिंग।
सर आई एग्री फॉर दैट। The argument which I would like you to address is लोगों के पास सेविंग करने के लिए कुछ ज्यादा।
देखिए अगर आप कहते हैं कि आपके पास 8,000 अरब का टैक्स पोटेंशियल मौजूद है और अगर मैं ये आपको बता रहा हूँ कि आपके पास 2,000 अरब के करेंसी नोट्स में बैंकिंग चैनल में नहीं है, वो बाहर पार्क है, इनफॉर्मल इकोनॉमी में है, और अगर हमें ये पता है कि डॉलराइजेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमी पिछले पूरे साल हो रही है, गवर्नमेंट ने तो टारगेट डिसीजन नहीं लिया है आपके पास जाने का, और आपके पास रिस्ट्रिक्शन की नॉन फाइनेंस की रियल एस्टेट पे भी इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकेंगे, तो पैसे कहाँ गए हैं? सारे पैसे डॉलर में पड़े हैं। तो यू हैव टू गिव पीपल सम इंसेंटिव कि वो डॉलर जो है वो एंड कैश होंगे वो किसी न किसी जगह पे जाए, एंड दैट्स वेयर इन्वेस्टमेंट इज प्रेजेंट।
Fantastic. I wanted this out of him. So now you know पैसा है, ठीक है? Okay, now on to you, sir, the second economist. So, sir, there is a very strong argument and there are two sides to this, so it would be a tough question for you. Continuous point of discussion and contention, the continuously bleeding public entities, PIL, steel mill, etc., etc. You plan to privatize that. It's a highly unpopular decision. There are political repercussions, there are economic repercussions, but you continuously feeding them, and it's a never-ending pool. How can this challenge be addressed? What do you think should be done in this regard?
पहले पॉलिसी रेट पे थोड़ा सा दो मिनट कि पॉलिसी रेट इंक्रीज क्योंकि इन्फ्लेशन ज़्यादा होता है तो इट विल बी आई थिंक इन्फ्लेशन डिसएडवांटेज इन द सेम तो क्लियरली इन्फ्लेशन रेट ज़्यादा 8% है तो आप 7% पॉलिसी रेट नहीं कर सकते पाकिस्तान में नॉर्मली 200 से 300 बेसिस पॉइंट आपको हाई रखना होता है तो क्रिएट इंसेंटिव तो अगर इन्फ्लेशन आपका जो 9% पे है तो आई थिंक 11% मिनिमम आपका वैसे ही बन जाता है पॉलिसी रेट कॉस्ट ऑफ आई थिंक इन्वेस्टमेंट का कुछ 6-7% से ज़्यादा नहीं होता तो वो इंडस्ट्री के लिए अगर बाकी चीज़ें लेबलिंग इन्वायरमेंट वगैरह ठीक हो तो इतना हर्ट नहीं करता इन्वेस्टर को अगर इन्फ्लेशन 9% है तो मेरा मतलब रियल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है विच इज 2% तो 2% अगर वो मतलब इन्फ्लेशन 5% हो 7% हो तो भी 2% है अगर 9 और 11 हो तो भी 2% है इसके लिए तो वो इतना मैटर नहीं करता दूसरा क्वेश्चन पब्लिक सेक्टर enterprise I think this is the most important point because जब PMLN की गवर्नमेंट 2013 में आई थी तो the total reading was around 250 billion. Now it is around 1300 billion. So it is growing at a faster pace. So and the reading in the power sector because of inefficiency and everybody has to pay for high electricity prices बहुत ज़्यादा है सबसे ज़्यादा reading power sector में है तो then स्टील इस बजट में कुछ स्टील बिल का तो स्टैटिक बायर के जो देने का हुआ तो है ना तो मे बी इट विल बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड सूनर सरमाया एक बनाई गई थी बैंक को पार करने के लिए उनकी मैनेजमेंट के लिए बट आई थिंक इट वाज नॉट स्टार्टेड एंड स्टिल आफ्टर 6 months it is not taking off so but the government has to do to lower the incidence of on the budget because this is important component if you are losing around 31.3 trillion this is a huge money and you are losing continuous basis huge money so employment generation की इतनी ज़्यादा नहीं है इसमें so government को इसके बारे में सीरियस थिंकिंग ये मतलब ये एम का भी कमिटमेंट था पीटीआई गवर्नमेंट का भी कमिटमेंट है तो टू डिफरेंट गवर्नमेंट्स की कमिटमेंट है कि प्रैक्टिकल एक्शंस ना तो पिछले 5 साल में हमने देखे ना इस एक साल में भी हमने नहीं देखा लेकिन इस वक्त थोड़ा स्टील मिल के बारे में थोड़ा सा स्टार्ट किया गया है but power sector I think we have to fix the power sector so the cheaper energy
वो तो सब्सिडीज रिमूव होना शुरू हो गई
सब्सिडी इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग कि सब्सिडी तो आप वेरी डिफरेंट सब्सिडी दे रहे हैं कि गवर्नमेंट आस्क यू कि आपकी कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन 15 रुपीस है गवर्नमेंट करके 13 पे सेल कर रहा है वेरी डिफरेंट सब्सिडी है जो कि गवर्नमेंट दे रही है तो वो सब्सिडी अनदर थिंग ये जो है लॉसेस के 22% लॉसेस 20% लॉसेस इनकी जो कॉस्ट है वो ह्यूज है और 1.3 ट्रिलियन का सर्कुलेटेड पड़ा हुआ है जिसकी फिस्कल कॉस्ट है बजट में आप इंटरेस्ट उसको कैरी करते हैं तो यू इट इज अनदर सॉर्ट ऑफ डेट 800 बिलियन का कमोडिटी डेट पड़ा है पासको वगैरह का तो practically 6.6% of GDP last year fiscal deficit का तो 6% से ज़्यादा outside the budget part में हो गया कि which was not owned by the government. So practical terms it is 12-13%. So we have to resolve this problem to unblock the energy sector.
So we have to privatize. Great.
Privatize or any other mode that's my.
But sir, lot of experience with Chinese, and nowadays we say हम एक ही मस्जिद की तरफ करें अपने मस्जिद की वैसे हमारे मस्जिद में तो हमारा दूसरा नहीं है सो चाइना के एक्सपीरियंस से जो आपने सीखा है obviously we all know these are challenging times economic challenges है not so long ago China was facing the same आपने पहले हमें जनरल को बता दिया कि ह्यूमन रिसोर्स डेवलपमेंट अपना टेम्परामेंट पैदा करने वगैरह वगैरह in the context of this budget very specifically आप क्या समझते हैं कोई ऐसी इंडस्ट्री या कोई ऐसा स्टेप जो हम जनरली लें जो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिकली हमें हेल्प करेगी लेट मी जस्ट एलाबोरेट दैट स्लाइडली फॉर एग्जांपल देयर हैज बीन अ प्रपोजल कि जी नौजवानों के लिए प्रोजेक्ट सैंक्शन हो रहा है ऑन द लाइंस ऑफ द यूथ लोन स्कीम प्रीवियसली कि उनको आपने इंकरेज करेंगे दैट स्मॉल इन्वेस्टमेंट बिजनेस स्टार्ट हो एक स्टार्टअप कल्चर है And we do know कि सिंगल सिलिकॉन वैली जो है उसकी दो तीन तीन कंपनियां पाकिस्तान की जीडीपी से ज़्यादा प्रोड्यूस कर रही हैं। तो उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अगर आप कुछ बहुत स्पेसिफिकली सजेस्ट करना चाहें।
अगर you ask my personal suggestion, तो मैं महातिर मोहम्मद साहब के recent quote use करूँ, when he said that when I have to cite an economy, I would always cite a rising. So I think perhaps that gives my aspiration and reason for always saying that China gives us take a look at the neighborhood. We've had fantastic strategic relationship with them, and they're advancing by each passing second, both technology-wise, economy-wise, so they can actually support us. Even they can support us in actually lifting our state-owned enterprises, because who would have better experience than the entire China has been run by state-owned enterprises. So we can learn from them.
And they are profitable.
That's what I'm saying. So you cannot emulate a model. You can't say that you just support Chinese model. What you can do is that you can learn, get pertinent lessons, and then based on your own cultural and business environment, make your own policies. If I am to give a choice, I think I would still say, and this has been my argument, that we need to still invest on our human resources. This is one thing, and we've kept that in our 12-5-year plan, because human resource wise, when I compare it with any of our competitors, I've served in Vietnam, I've served in Laos and Cambodia, and there are many youngsters sitting here, and I don't want to, state anything that might hurt their feelings, but trust me, Laos and Cambodia, which are Islamabad, plus about 26 making your own mind. So please learn from what is happening around us. It's just about reading Google में जाएं और देखें Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. Travel तो शायद हम करते नहीं हैं, लेकिन चलो Google पे जाके देखें and learn from them. This is all.
Great. So, Salman sir, how do you see this budget in the context of the energy sector? Very specific.
Before that, briefly to touch upon that privatization issue, because that is also related to this budget. Budget procedure, this finance bill has got only 150 billion, and that is for the 2 hour budget I have already commented. But is the privatization also political economically, or my colleague has already addressed, so without going on political economic, so I will talk about the regulatory and legal aspect. Power sector in the GenCos is very large, the generation component of the power sector. GenCos, they are all loss-making, continuously loss-making for several years. They are a big burden on the economy. And the best opportunity we had was, instead of having RLNG plant, we should have rehabilitated these plants. इनको ही हम रिहैबिलिटेट करते, टरबाइन चेंज करते, आरएनजी यूज करते या मोर एफिशिएंसी जो भी हम करके लेके आते. The biggest benefit for that was we didn't have to have laid down new gas pipelines, nor we need to have transmission links. Now when we have got new RLNG project, we had to have new gas entire infrastructure, and then we need to have high voltage transmission line, which added to the cost. If we had rehabilitated the GenCos, even if we had not privatized, if we had rehabilitated, that was the best solution, the fastest solution, but we didn't make the right decisions. Anyhow, as you were saying, as nation we have to be correct, politically, socially, and strategically. On the distribution side, I am against privatization, and that is from the regulatory perspective and economic perspective. From the regulatory perspective, the NAFTA amendment act clearly says that the transmission line business and this retail business, it has to be segregated. Now, when you are going to give this in this shape, it's a national monopoly. We have already lesson learned in the case of K Electric, what happened and how it happened. Either you have to provide them very lucrative tariff, multi-year tariff, or what option is either you have to be very strict and make them again loss-making the way they are making this. What is the way forward? For distribution, very clearly, Now you just segregate the line business, prepare for that, let the open market forces come into place. Any bulk power consumer can buy from any bulk power producer, let this market prevail. Yes, on the retail side, you should have the loss-making feeders privatized, but phase-wise. Don't do it right now in this shape. Third part of your question, I think very briefly, because we're running out of time, I didn't see much for power sector in this country.
Okay, thank you for your feedback. Last but not the least, and last question of the day. Yeah, you are heading ICMAP. You are also on the anomaly committee. So my question to you relates to your own perspective that you briefly shared. We do see that a lot of challenges with regard to taxation compliance and broadening of base comes down to, let me put it this way, I won't say lack of professionalism and asset, or something that is left to be desired. There are better standards that can be delivered. You rightly pointed out, professional accountants are best prepared for that. How do you think that point can be driven to the decision-making quarters that all the areas that you pointed out yourself, be it FPR, AGPR, appellate tribunal, that professional accountants operating in Pakistan and serving in the relevant fields, be it audit, be it internal audit, or be it taxation, should be taken as the prime, be it on the consultation side, to support by hopefully advising that 5 million people, the data of which we claim we have, or on the governmental side by providing the services as the public servant. So your views on that?
So, as I said, that professionals are required. So definitely, HR is the basic, the real force behind the success of any organization. So this is the main thing which I highlighted. And then there are a few other elements as well. That the mode of doing business. Right now in Pakistan, the public sector is doing business in different modes, in authority, board, in cell, and and we have companies right now. This is the era of corporatization, and the world is moving, towards the corporatization. They are creating specialized companies to deliver the things. But unfortunately, what we are looking right now, there was an initiative that we are creating a company for every aspect of business, like if this is a parking management, bazaar management, capital management, staff money management, everything. So this is good thing. This is a good initiative that we are moving towards that direction. But unfortunately, this process is, on a reverse mode. People are thinking that there is some flaw in the company. The flaw is in the governance, not in the mode of company. If you look towards internationally, I can give you an example. Here, civil aviation authority, now there are airport management companies. First, you have to go for that mode of doing business, and in this mode, you will invite to the relevant professionals. Then you have a relevant professional for doing business. Third one is your ease to do business. You must have a regulatory environment which is beneficial and which you give trust to the investors. Rather than pushing the investors, rather than creating a threatening environment for the investors, we have to give them that kind of thing.
Absolutely right, yes. Sorry to interrupt you. How can we work together like we very proudly presented that ACC, ICMAP, Lahore Tax Bar, Karachi Tax Bar work together, put forward the project 70% were accepted. One of the proposals that is pending, I'll be very specific. We need to have professional accountants working in FBR, doing the audit, not BComs, and no disrespect to them. We need professional accountants as accountant member in ATR. We need professional accountants serving in AGPR. Then they'll be able to deliver services. How can we achieve that?
We can achieve that, as I said, first, the mode which, first of all, you have to go for the civil services reforms. You have to give the professional cadres and the rules for the election of these professionals. Not only accountants, for engineers, for IT experts, for economists, for everybody. those who is relevant for that organization, they must have the route to join that organization. But unfortunately, we are still following the civil service system for a few organizations, which is due to which we are reluctant that if you look towards the Auditor General of Pakistan, they have less than 150 accountants, professional accountants, qualified accountants, including ACCA, including ACMS and CS. They have less than 150 qualified accountants, less than 150, and they are auditing and keeping the record of AGPI, Auditor General, Accountant General. They are keeping the record of thousands of organizations. And still they have only one SAT system, which is known as a project of FIFRA, Project of Improvement of Financial Reporting and Auditing. And this is just the receipts and the payment, which is the pin book of the budget. If you are familiar with this, what the pin book, when we are publishing the budget, there is a pin book. And the pin book is showing the receipts and the payments of the budget and where you are allocating. There are several departments, they have no record for the assets, inventories, liabilities. So such record is not with the government. We have a recent meeting with the Dr. Ishit, who is heading the institutional reforms, that we have to go for the corporatization. Engage the professionals, where lawyers are required, we should engage the lawyers. Where accountants are required, we should engage the professionals. Civil services was a route, but right now this is the era of expertise. And this route, this civil service system must have the route for the experts. So then you can bring the change. First, HR, professional HR will come. They will, review the system, develop the system. And the other thing after the HR is the system, the technology. You have to go for such kind of technology. But unfortunately, there is an accounting and auditing and a lot of resources it is not accounting for right now. So we have to move in that direction. Then the model of doing business is corporatization, and then regulatory framework is easy to do business. So these are, and then cost of doing business, which is we are talking about. Then if you have everything, then you have to compete in the international market. So these are the few elements if we address all the things, and this is not a rocket science. We have, mashallah, good accountants. ACCA has a good presence in Pakistan. Around the globe, ACCA has a good presence. ICM has a good strength, and they are serving in those organizations. But the right thing is, these public sector organizations are lacking in system. Abu Ghazali, I would report, if you want to see the railways audit report, I don't think so. This is publicly document available. जिस तरह किसी भी public limited company की balance sheet आप stock market से जाके ले सकते हैं. Such kind of documents should be available to all the stakeholders, so that a better decision making can. So we must have, my focus is on the expert HR and the technology based system, and then more of doing business will be corporate model, which rest of the world is doing. So then we can go for the competition with the other organizations.
Perfect. So thank you very much for summing it up brilliantly, Ziyasab, President ICMAB. I'm grateful to our entire panel, Dr. Abid Kayyum Sumairi, Executive Director STPI, Dr. Zia, President ICMAB, Salman Amin Saab, Fellow Chartered Certified Accountant, a Senior Energy Professional, Hassan Baba Bhatt, Project Director CPAC, Zafrul Hassan Saab, Chief Macroeconomist, Ministry of Planning, Development and Reforms. Before we move towards conclusion, I must share this has been one of the longest and most intense panel discussion I've ever been a part of, and this has been very fruitful. Thank you all for your contribution, and thank you to our attendees for listening so intently. So a huge round of applause for our panelists and yourself. With that, we'll now move towards the conclusion. We'll have a group picture of all the panelists moving forward. I would also request Head of ACCA Pakistan, Mr. Sadiq Aslam, to join us. Head of Regional Member Affairs, Mr. Harun Jan. Head of Marketing, Mr. Hamad Azim. And we are also missing one key face, Afrasya. Could you please here to join us on stage, Afrasya?
Enjoying coffee.
Sorry to interrupt, you'll have to continue right afterwards. And last but not the least, Amara.
Check
So thank you very much, everyone. The refreshments are open now. Please enjoy yourselves and have a very good evening. Thank you.
इकोनॉमिक सिनेरियो तो दिखा है बात करते हैं कि आगे इकोनॉमिक सिनेरियो तो दिखा है
वैसे भी वहाँ पे ग्रोथ से तो मेरा बहुत पुराना था
मुसलमान भाई को
I joined KPP asking me to join them as the CEO. That's a bit of
डेवलपमेंट कौन सा जो बनाई इसके पैरेलल एक ये लेवल्स कर रहे हैं ये अकाउंट्स के साथ और अकाउंट्स
लेकिन बहुत डराने वाली बात है
वो मैंने इसीलिए आपको टाइम कर दिया कि
अब जैसे आएंगे और it might take longer than we are expecting.
बजट में ओवरऑल
एक flagship हो जाएगा. The government is putting. I'm also trying to get out of the
हमने अपन में भेजे थे
सब मुझे ज्यादा दीजिए सर.
चाय तो नहीं
क्या मैं बोलने वाला जाके तो चुप
सर अभी हमने इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन के लिए ना इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन के लिए
किधर है
सर ऐसा नेशन
वेरी बैड मोबाइल पे गेम खेलना शुरू हो गया